All right, she's officially online. Good, thank you, Councilwoman. With that, City Clerk, please take roll call for the regular scheduled meeting of December 10th, officially at 9:29 in the morning.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Here.
Councilmember Chavez,
Here.
Councilmember Esparza,
Present.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Present.
Councilmember Soria,
Here.
Council Vice President Capriolio,
Here.
President Arias.
Present. Councilmember Carbasi, will you do us the honor of leading us in the flag salute?
Yes, sir. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike, you better cut back on the coffee, bud.
Too fast?
All right, with that, Council, we're gonna go to any changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to read, City Clerk?
Yes, sir. The first item is item 1JJ. Approve the reappointment of Lisa Flores to District 1 Project Review Committee. The agenda should read appoint, not reappoint. The next item is item 1U, actions pertaining to liquefied carbon dioxide, CO2, used in the post-treatment process for corrosion control in the distribution system. The resolution is subject to the mayor's veto. Item 4A, resolution naming Southeast Fresno Police Subdivision, the Officer Theobang Police Station. And that item will be heard at 1:30 so that the family can attend. Repeating the announcement that was made earlier, there's a special meeting and a emergency special meeting that we'll be discussing later today. As in regards for items pulled or tabled, I have the following. Tabling item 1II by Council President Arias. We've got pulled items from consent. Council President Arias is pulling 1O. Councilmember Bredefeld is pulling 1P from consent. And I also have information regarding registering a no vote for Councilmember Bredefeld for item 1FF and 1MM, and also a recusal on item 1HH by Councilmember Bredefeld. Those are all the changes I have.
I'm sorry, City Clerk, it was item 1PP that Councilmember Bredefeld is pulling, 1PP.
Okay.
Council President, for the record, I would be abstaining from item 1LL.
And Mr. President, on item 1II, I was going to make a motion to separate the appointments. Would you like to, if I was to do that, would you pull one of them?
Miguel, you're mute.
Sorry, council member. I'm only interested in pulling the council appointment of Mr. Garcia, who we haven't had an opportunity to meet with given all the emergencies related to the pandemic and baseball, but I'm fine with the rest of the appointments.
Okay, then City Attorney, how would we do that? So do I make a motion to split it and then Council President tables that one item, or how would that work?
Well, by consensus, you can agree that Garcia would be removed from the agenda, but Guzman would remain on.
Okay. I'm agreeable to that, council member.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right.
Also like to pull table item 1G.
1G?
Yes.
Give me 1 second here.
One singular G.
All right. 1G is being tabled by member Esparza. And which one else, council member?
That was the only one for now.
Okay, 1G. Any other changes?
President, I'm gonna register a no vote for 1MM.
A no vote for 1MM being registered by council member Chavez. All right. Anything else, council members?
I would like to register a vote for 1MM as well.
All right. Thank Thank you. Those are registered. Councilwoman Soria?
Can I table item 100, please?
Okay, 100 is tabled. Anything other? I think I've heard from everyone so far. All right, Council.
Wait, we could get a recap from the city clerk. Just again, what's tabled at this point?
Okay, I have the following table. Item 1LL. One those are tabled. You've got, did you want the rest like the registered no votes? and
Excuse me, Yvonne, I didn't think 1LL was tabled.
It's not 1LL. I don't register that. I don't have that noted.
Okay, you asked me to pull, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it's an II.
One II.
Okay. Okay. And then we have the following pulled from consent: 1O, 1PP, and that's it. Then we have no votes registered for item 1MM from Councilmember Bredefeld, Councilmember Chavez, and Councilmember Carbasi. We're also separating out the item 1II and only approving, removing Garcia and approving the other.
Okay.
I think that's all I have.
That's what I have too. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Second
Can
by.
can I just make sure also that it's a no vote for me on 1FF and a recusal on 1HH?
Yes,
Yes.
that
Okay,
is
thank you.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bredefeld, for asking for that clarity.
Council
All right,
President.
Council. Now, legal counsel, really quick. Do I got to take an official vote for the emergency meeting or the special meeting?
You need a 5-member vote to approve the emergency meeting.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the emergency meeting?
So moved.
Move. Second.
Second, it's approved by, motion by Member Chavez, approved by Member Carbasi. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Aye.
Councilmember Soria, Council Vice President Caprielio,
Yes.
President Arias.
Yes. All right, council, thank you for getting through the agenda, establishing the agenda and approving it. We will now go to the ceremonial presentations. And with us live in person is our outgoing president, Dr. Joseph Castro from the University of California, also known as the Go Bulldogs land, and also the incoming and officially the president of the California State University System. So I'm going to turn over to our council vice president, who, as he reminds us all the time, Fresno State is one of his 2 jewels in D4. So council vice president, you have the floor.
Actually, Fresno State is the crown jewel of District 4, and the airport is also a crown jewel. This morning, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Joseph Castro here from the university, and he wishes to address the council, and it's great to see you. And as usual, we're in our Bulldog tie, our Bulldog socks, our Bulldog pin, because we're Bulldogs to the end. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, and I want to thank President Arias, Vice President Capriolio, and the members of the City Council for giving me a few moments of your time today. I have a very important duty today. Over the past 7 years as president of Fresno State, I've had the opportunity to award the President's Medal of Distinction, which is the highest non-degree award presented by our university. The medal denotes achievements that are worthy of emulation. It is worn by individuals who inspire discovery, individuals who foster diversity, and those who live a life of distinction. Recipients over the years have woven their story of excellence indelibly into the Fresno State story. and they have strengthened our community immeasurably. Since the university's establishment in 1911, leaders past and present have shaped our university. And 109 years later, despite these challenging times that I would argue call for even greater, stronger leadership, members of our community have stepped up and given so much to ensure that Fresno State continues to be a beacon of hope and promise for a better future for Valley students and their families. So this year, I am proud to announce that your colleague, the Honorable Paul Capriolio, has earned the right to wear this medal. Paul, or as he is affectionately known by some of us as Pablo, has done so much to represent Fresno State and for our city. Our students, staff, and faculty at the university are the beneficiaries of Paul's and his chief of staff's hard work, tireless efforts to improve the safety of our neighborhood around the campus. Paul, as you know, is a proud Fresno State alumnus who has earned a bachelor's degree in political science at the university before moving on to earn his Juris Doctorate from the University of Pacific's McGeorge School of Law. Paul has had a stellar professional career, which included service in the California Attorney General's Office, the Fresno County District Attorney's Office, where he was a successful prosecutor, and later as council member of the city of Fresno. Paul and his dear wife, Rhonda, have lived in District 4 for over 40 years, and now they will close one important chapter of their lives. And I hope you, Paul, will enjoy your retirement for many years to come. We are so grateful for your contributions, and we wish you all the best. So I ask everybody to join me in honoring Paul Capriolio with the 2020 President's Medal of Distinction for his bold leadership, his decades-long public service, and his commitment to the greater good of our university and our community. Congratulations, Councilman Capriolio. I have the medal here. I'd love to put it around your neck, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
As long as you both keep your mask on, you guys can get close to each other. I was wondering how come the council vice president was wearing a fancy suit today.
Thank you.
All right. Shall we name the airport after him too?
Sure.
That's great.
As he gets back to his seat, we'll return to the council vice president. Council, if you would indulge us, this is officially council vice president's last meeting, and he has requested to give his farewell speech to the public and to his colleagues today. So we're going to give him that liberty to address the council and the public as he returns.
As an attorney, I'm rarely speechless, and I'm always advocating and actually tell too many stories in too many words to too many people, and everyone indulges me. But at this moment, I'm just so overwhelmed. This is priceless, and I'm proud to wear this and to be affiliated with the university and Larry and Debbie and Bold Joe, and with Laura. I'm just, I'm overwhelmed. And I thought maybe you'd be giving me a coffee cup or something, which I broke the last one, so that would be great. But I'm just, I'm just overwhelmed. And I appreciate you, and I'll always be a Bulldog, and I will continue my service to the university until the day I die. So thank everybody. I think that's about all I'm good for right now.
You deserve it, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Council Vice President. We will allow you to regain your composure since you broke the no crying rule on the dais, and we'll return to you for your final remarks during council comments. With that, Council, I'm going to try and move on to the next portion of the agenda. Unless President, the Council would like to say some farewell words to our outgoing President, President Castro. Are you still in the building, President Castro?
Yes, I am.
All right, if you can come up to the podium, I think some council members would like to say an official hello and goodbye as you make your way towards Long Beach for bigger and better things and helping more of our kids. So I will hand it over to the council members wishing to address our outgoing president. Member Carbasi.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Castro, for what you just did. I've had the pleasure of working for a year and a half with Paul, and as a Fresno State grad, no one more deserving could have earned that medal. But I also want to thank you and your wife, for your First Lady Castro, for your service to the Fresno community. It's amazing how, I was there in Dr. Welty's time and how much the campus changed, and you've taken us to a whole new level. Being the first Californian to lead the CSU system is very fitting. It's the largest system of higher education. But we love you in Fresno, and you're still a Fresnan, and we're never going to forget about you. And you always have a home here, and I mean that. What I'm going to ask Paul to do is right next to where the council vice president is sitting is a little stuffed bulldog. I've had that since I was a student. He has been through a lot. I never thought I'd be able to take him to City Hall with me, and I've been so blessed to do that. I want you to take him to the CSU Chancellor's office so he can keep moving up, if you don't mind, as a token of our, very small token of our gratitude, but never forget, we're definitely a part of your roots and we appreciate your service to our community. Paul, would you mind, there you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go now to the mayor. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Castro. In addition to all the accolades you've done over the years, you've really made a big difference in Fresno State. You're a rebounder like many of us. You went out, you had a successful career, and you came back to your hometown, and you made a difference. And I enjoy our past 4 years, our relationship, working together with Paul and on issues involving the city and the campus, trying to make it a better place. I still never forget the invitations to the Skybox on our football games and all the camaraderie there. So many things you've done. You've made a big, big difference in this community. I'm proud to call you a friend, proud to have known you, and I wish you the best of luck in your career. I'm sure you're going high. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yeah, President Castro, thank you very much for your years of service. From the first time you stepped there, and your slogan was "Be bold," and that's what you've done. And you've taken that campus from the times that many of us walk through those hallways and parkways there on the campus. It's really served as I really see it as a bridge for a lot of first generation college students that might have not think that was possible, and you've really taken that mantra and just ran with it. And I know that a lot of us, every time we drive through that campus, we have a lot of great memories there of not just getting a college degree, but growing as a person, growing professionally, growing academically. And I think that's what Fresno State really stands for. Those are really the pillars of our community. And that's what reflects in the city of Fresno as a whole. And you've really been a huge part of really putting Fresno State on the map, not just here in the state of California, but nationally. And we want to thank you. And this promotion that you're getting, to me, it really just captures the moment in time for the state of California as we're growing, as we're becoming more diverse, as we're having folks that are really great leaders in our educational system. And as you know, this has been a very challenging year. We're going to need your leadership at the state level to really keep pushing for those first generation college students, because we know that a lot of those social ills that we have are solved by, you know, folks getting an education and achieving that social mobility in our community. And you've just really done a great job of doing that. And I just wanted to personally thank you for that. We're all generational. I'm a proud Bulldog twice. I know I still have the receipt for my tuition. But what's really great is, and I was reminded of that a couple of weeks ago, my daughters will actually be graduating from Fresno State this upcoming year in May. And so has my sister. And so we appreciate the work that you've done in our community, and we wish you the best. I know you're not going to forget about us in the Central Valley. I know you got a big state to cover, but I know that your roots are here, and we appreciate that from you, Dr. Castro.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilmember Esparza.
Dr. Castro, again, thank you for your leadership throughout these years. What you've done has been transformational during your tenure on campus. It's very evident across the entire community, not just being part of the campus community. Again, as you know, I did not attend Fresno State. You know, I'm a UC guy, but I'm a huge proponent of our public education system here in California at large. And they really couldn't have made a better choice when it comes to making you chancellor of the CSU system. I think you demonstrated your sort of level of commitment to our students coming into the Valley, one of the, unfortunately, right, least lowest education levels of attainment, right, throughout the state and even nationwide, right, and made your footprint and shown your commitment to our population and our students here. So I know you'll continue that, and wish you the best as you move on to head the entire system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilwoman Soria.
Thank you, Council President. Chancellor-elect Castro, I'm incredibly proud to, one, congratulate you, and also to thank you for the tireless work that you put in over the last 6 years. I want to personally thank you, because anytime that I approached you and your team to do something for the students, you always found a way. You never said no. In particular, thank you for working with us with the Latino Caucus of the League of Cities of California to create an endowment for student scholarships for the dreamers in our valley, who we know that need, you know, the tremendous resources to get through and complete their education. I want to thank you and Mary in particular too. So send my regards to her, because I know she's going to be missed. And she has been an exceptional First Lady with the fact that she committed herself to dedicating her time to really make the student cupboard a success and seeing where the need was, and not just talking about it, but doing something about it, because that's what Mary is about. And that's what I love about you guys. I want to thank you for the footprint and the imprint that you've left in the Valley. You are from the Valley, and we are going to miss you, but we know that you're going to elevate, continue to elevate Fresno State through your work at the statewide level. And we're just incredibly proud. I will say that as a Latina, as a first generation student, as a daughter of immigrants, I'm incredibly proud to see a Latino lead the biggest public institution in California. And I'm excited about what you will leave for the state, because you're going to impact thousands of lives and generations to come with your leadership at the state level. So thank you and congratulations on what a remarkable story that you have, and what an amazing journey. And we're excited to see what you do at the state level.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Bradfield.
Yes, and Dr. Castro, I just want to wish you the very best. I think you've been a tremendous leader, and I think Councilmember Sawyer is right. We never want to forget your wife, who's also been a tremendous leader. My kids graduated from Fresno State. My wife did, and they did very well in their lives and have gone on to other graduate degrees. I don't think they could have chosen anybody better for chancellor, and I know you're going to do great things there. I wish you and your wife the very best. I want to thank you for all that you've done, and I think you made a great pick in Councilmember Capriolo. He's been a tremendous advocate for Fresno State,
Yes.
And so wish you the very best, and thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Council. President Castro, as a kid who grew up in Mendota and whose first field trip to Fresno State was in middle school, and I was taken back and overwhelmed by such a huge institution, and never thought that I would, be attending, much less graduating or being in this building. But I'm glad that today so many more kids can see that that university is theirs, thanks to your work. It's not only about being bold, but it's about embracing and being inclusive of our whole community. You have been nothing short of one of the most prideful parts of the Latino community. Even my mom speaks highly of you, and she hasn't even met you yet. And but she can see you on TV in English and Spanish. She can see you doing the work, and not only do you speak the language, but you really speak to the spirit and the heart of so many people in the Valley. So Long Beach is going to get the best and the brightest that the Valley has to offer, and I'm pretty sure that you are going to leave us with just as strong as a leader, both in character and integrity and in competency as you leave Fresno. And good luck to you and your wife and your son. Thank you again for making sure that you not only live in the big house on Van Ness, but you put your kids in our public schools, and you get to see firsthand what they go through. And this pandemic, I'm sure, has been a difficult time for your family, like ours. It has been for ours. Online learning is not ideal, but it makes a big difference when the leaders of academia are going through it just the way the average person is. And you have demonstrated that, and I'm glad that the system will return to in-person come the fall. And I am sure that as somebody who understands the impact of COVID on Latinos and on Valley residents, you're going to keep the safety of students and their families at the forefront of that work. So thank you for your service. Thank your wife for her work on the Housing Authority Board. She was an intellectual champion on that board. And thank you to Larry for always making sure that we were heard and well received in our university at Fresno State.
Thank you.
Hey, President Aria.
Yes, sir.
One last thing, President Castro. Do you know what all those Harvard, Yale, Princeton graduates are going to call a former Fresno State president?
No,
boss.
What is that?
Jefe.
The boss.
Mr. President, Dr. Castro, do you have any parting words of wisdom or anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, I know you have a very busy agenda. I just want to say thank you for your leadership in our community. Thank you for your partnership with Fresno State. I'm confident that because of our hard work and our strong community support, that the best days lie ahead for Fresno State and for our community. And I will do everything I can from my new position to be supportive of our bold university. I know that it's going to go to new heights of success. And I appreciate everything that you do for our university and community. So thank you so much. And I'm going to leave you with one thing. Go Dogs! Thank you.
Go Dogs.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, President Castro and Chancellor Castro. With that, Council, I'm going to turn over the ceremonial presentations to our mayor on the proclamation for Reverend Ruben A. Scott. Mayor, I think you're on mute, Mayor. There you are. You're good now.
Hold on a second here. Wind up here. Okay. It's my privilege to commend Reverend Ruben A. Scott. He has served a lifetime of over 50 years giving back to our community and serving the people of Fresno. Reverend Scott founded the Providence Baptist Church in 1962 and served as its founding pastor. He has a stellar record in community service, including the Red Cross, Neighborhood Council Area 1, West Fresno Home Improvement Association, Franklin School Advisory Council. He's volunteered his time for local colleges, Fresno City College, Fresno State, Pacific University, and most of all, he's been a voice of advocacy for the less fortunate and helped work on important life issues, including housing and employment opportunities. He is the longest serving commissioner on the Fresno Housing Board for over 35 years, imagine that, including 20 years as its chair. So I certainly wish him the best in his retirement. He certainly deserved it. So it's my honor to declare Thursday, December 10th, 2020 to be the Reverend Reuben A. Scott Day in Fresno. Give him a hand. And City Clerk, would you read the proclamation?
Whereas Reverend Reuben A. Scott has dedicated his personal and professional energies to the community of Fresno for more than 5 decades. And whereas since 1962, when Reverend Scott founded Providence Baptist Church in Fresno, where he has been founding pastor and administrator. And whereas Reverend Scott has served in diverse roles at the Red Cross Neighborhood Council Area 1, California Transportation Task Force, West Fresno Home Improvement Association, and the Franklin School Advisory Council. And whereas Reverend Scott for more than 40 years has been involved in several Fresno-based institutions of higher education, including Fresno City College, California State University Fresno, and Fresno Pacific University. And whereas Reverend Scott's commitment to the community is evident both in his professional endeavors, his advocacy for quality housing and equitable opportunities for all Fresnans, and through the array of organizations in which he has participated over the years. And whereas Reverend Scott for more than 35 years served as commissioner, and for more than 20 of those years as chair of the Fresno Housing Authority Board. And whereas Reverend Scott has served as advisor, mentor, teacher, and community leader throughout the Fresno community for more than 50 years. Now therefore be it resolved that we, Mayor Lee Brand, and members of the Fresno City Council proclaim Thursday, December 10th, 2020 to be Reverend Reuben A. Scott Day in the city of Fresno.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other guests who'd like to address this ceremonial presentation?
This is Preston Prince, CEO of Fresno Housing, and I know Reuben Scott is attending and trying to figure out how to help him raise his hand. I just wanted to say thank you, Mayor Brand, and to the council for recognizing, I think, an amazing leader. He is the last commissioner who was at the Housing Authority when I was hired. And so he's the last one you can blame for bringing me to Fresno if you have issues about that. And I know Miguel does, so you can do that with him. I just want to say that from very small things that he did, such as canceling or not canceling, adjourning our meetings with the phrase of, for those of you who want to adjourn, vote by standing up. From small things like that to correcting our grammatical errors, because he was a former English teacher, to the really big things of being the moral compass for our agency. He oversaw us going from a very small agency over 35 years to one reflect and think. And he was that way with all of us. He's just been an amazing part of this board. I do know that there are other commissioners who are participating and listening right now, and I'm hoping they might raise their hands as well if they'd like to say something. But I just want to say thank you. He has been an amazing inspiration to us here at Fresno Housing. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a few folks with their hands up, so I'm going to go ahead and identify them. I believe it is Mr. Pastor Booker Lewis.
Pastor Booker Lewis. Is that how it shows up? Okay, that's cool. This is Pastor B.T. Lewis, Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church. I just want to chime in very quickly and say that Dr. Scott has been a personal friend to my family. He was a contemporary of my dad. He's been a great leader in our community, not just in West Fresno, but in our community at large. And many lives in this community have been influenced by him. And we certainly appreciate his service. We're proud. We're proud of everything that Dr. Scott has done. And I just want to say let you know this last note, he is still very active in our church community. He has not slowed down. And so we're excited for him today, and we're thankful for his service.
Thank you, Pastor Lewis. Next person is, I believe, Chairwoman Jones. You are unmuted and have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Of course, I would echo everything that Preston and Pastor Lewis have said. Pastor Scott my grandfather was also a Baptist minister, and when he got too old to drive to his own church in Firebaugh, he joined Pastor Scott's church. Pastor Scott actually performed the funeral for both my grandparents, so he has been an influence in my life my entire life. And the day that I walked into the boardroom for the first time and saw him, it put me at ease. He literally took me under his wing, assisted me from going from a resident commissioner to now the chair of this board. He has taught me so much. He's been so instrumental, as Pastor Lewis said, in so many lives, particularly in Southwest Fresno, particularly the students that went through his classroom. And if you can hear me, Pastor Scott, I am trying not to cry when I tell you that I love you and that we will miss you very, very much.
Thank you, Chairwoman Jones. Next person is Central Valley Urban Institute.
Good evening, City Council. Eric Payne, Executive Director of the Central Valley Urban Institute. And in my last official capacity as a trustee with State Center Community College District, representing Trustee Area 2, as of December 11th, I wanted to congratulate Pastor Scott on his legacy of service to the Fresno Housing Authority. He has been the moral conscience of those who are houseless, of those who are facing housing insecurity, and he has righted the ship over his many decades of service to the Fresno community as a faith leader and as a past chair of the Fresno Housing Authority, and a long-time tenured faculty member at Fresno City College in the sociology department. He will be deeply missed, and we look forward to hearing his many stories of celebration in life after Fresno housing. And so additionally, I would like to thank President Castro for his service to our community, as well as Mary Castro, also a Housing Authority Commissioner, who has been a giant in the housing space. And so we are losing some dynamic leaders in our community who have added so much value and given so much love and heart to those who are underserved. And so I want to share my deep appreciation for those three dynamic leaders. And thank you, Council.
Thank you. Any other speakers wishing to address? I have Ms. Debbie Darden up next.
Good morning, City Council. I am Debbie Darden, Chair of the Golden Westside Planning Committee, also Vice Chair of BAPAC. I would like to extend my congratulations to Pastor Scott as well. I first met Pastor Scott over at Providence, enjoyed hearing him speak, enjoyed hearing him minister. I also know he is a pillar of the community, and I appreciate the fact that even sitting on the Housing Authority board, He has been one who has heard the cries of District 3. He has been one who have heard the cries of West Fresno, and he has been a champion for this community as a whole. So I'd like to say congratulations to Pastor Scott. Job well done. Thank you.
Council
Thank you.
President,
Yes.
if I may interrupt a second, I believe we have the Reverend online, and I'm going to unmute him right now. Hopefully it's the number that I'm going to unmute. Reverend, I've unmuted you.
Reverend, can you hear us?
It's still showing as muted.
Well, he has to unmute his phone. I believe it's *9. *9 or *6.
The
Reverend,
world of technical issues today.
*9 or *6 in order to unmute yourself. Okay. Maybe not.
Council President, I just wanted to add, this is my last official proclamation, so I couldn't have been more honored than have Reverend Scott be the person that deservedly got this honor. So,
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, we are still planning your farewell speech, so don't go anywhere anytime soon. I'm sure we'll have a few special meetings before the calendar year ends.
you're gonna have me going to the last day, Mikhail.
We're gonna run you down until the wheels come off, Mayor. Until the wheels come off. So do you have the Reverend on the line yet?
There you go. Reverend.
Reverend, testing 1, 2, 3.
You're on mute, but we can't hear you.
Again.
There you are. You have the floor, sir.
Oh. Reverend Scott, you have to do *6 again. You went to mute. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly, Reverend. You have the floor. Please proceed.
Well, Mayor Brian, and to all of the council members and all of those who spoke today, I want to say thank you for your love and thank you for your being here today. I find it quite ironic. Dr. Carl Falk, who was once president of Fresno State, also sat on the Housing Authority Board. And the wife of Dr. Castro sat on the Housing Authority Board. What a day this is. I want to say that it's been an honor and it's been a privilege for me to serve this community all of these years, and I ain't tired yet. I want to thank Preston Prince and the amazing staff at the Housing Authority for all the work that they have done. They indeed have made the Housing Authority relevant, which is what I've been trying to do all these years. The Housing Authority has touched every corner of Fresno County and every corner of this community, and that was one of the goals I had when I was selected all those years ago. We had a budget when I came on the board of $8 million. Today, over $300 million is still working and cooking for the citizens of Fresno County and of Fresno. What a blessing it has been, and what a ride it has been. All of those many mayors that have that appointed me, I go all the way back to Floyd Hyde and all the way up to Mayor Brand. I'm not going to give you all those names, but I do know them. And I just want to thank them for their faith in me. And I want to thank the community for being there with me and being there for me as we worked to make life better in Fresno. King Solomon said once that it's better the end of a thing than the beginning. And it is joy, joy, joy today. Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you so much, Council, and thank you so much, community. And it wouldn't be a bad idea if you elected Sabrina Kelly to succeed me. It would be nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend, and thank you for that endorsement of Ms. Kelly. And thank you for your years of service. And I can reassure you that the Housing Authority is one of the most relevant public entities in our city and a significant partner in the city's efforts to clean up Motel Drive and to provide affordable housing to way too many people that need it in our city. So thank you for your years of service, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Council, that concludes our ceremonial presentations today. We will now move on to council member reports and comments. I will start off with Council Member Soria. You have the floor.
Is this where Council Vice President's going to give his remarks or no? Should I start?
Yes, we will end with the Council Vice President during this section.
Okay. Just a couple of comments that I did want to share and some upcoming events that we do have. Just again, for the record, and I know that I've announced this publicly, folks know that I did test earlier this week COVID positive. And so I just want to remind everyone that as we move forward and that as folks are out in the community to take the precautionary measures to make sure that you stay away from getting COVID. It's not fun. I will say I've been one of the lucky few that have experienced mild flu symptoms. I will be spending, and I have been in quarantine since I started feeling minor symptoms. So I will, continue to participate in council meetings if they are virtual and follow my doctor's orders, which is stay home and quarantine for the 14 days. Also, I just wanted to thank folks. This past weekend, we had our community health event. I obviously didn't participate, but I do want to give a shout out to folks that were there that made it a success. Our trustee, Annalisa Perea, UCSF Fresno, obviously District 1, our team, the African American Coalition COVID Equity Project, Neighborhood Industries, Vallarta Supermarkets, and then also a special shout out to all our volunteers from the Iron Workers Local 155 and the Central Labor Council for helping us assist 350 families to get food, and then a few hundred families that were able to get tested and then get free flu shots. I want to make an announcement that with Central Unified, we are partnering up to do their Holiday Joy Food Drive. They are taking and doing their annual collection. Many families, as you guys can imagine, are being impacted by this pandemic. And so they are looking for donations, and you guys can contact them directly or go to their district office, room 11, Thursday and Friday from 9 to 12. And they are also taking whole turkey and chicken donations on Friday, December 18, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. At the Central High East campus by the cafeteria. So you can contribute to Central Unified if you have the ability to do so. As you guys may be aware, I've been doing a holiday toy drive for this is going to be my 8th year. I started doing it even before I became a council member. Obviously, in observation with the COVID restrictions, every year I've had an opportunity to adopt a school. So to bless hundreds of children in our community that are in need. Because of COVID, we are unable to do that, but we are continuing with a tradition. We've selected 30 families that have been identified by Fresno Unified and Central Unified, where their whole families will be receiving a holiday meal and gifts from our team. We will be delivering these closer to the Christmas holiday in partnership with our firefighters local union. So thank you to those folks who have already partnered with us to give us the resources to make that happening. And then just a reminder, folks, if you haven't gone tested for COVID-19, go get tested. We're making it a lot easier. I had an opportunity to go get tested on Saturday. The test came back on Monday, the results. So you can go to the fairgrounds. It's fairly easy. It took me about an hour to get through the line. So there are many resources in our community. Please take advantage of them and make sure that you utilize these resources that this council has supported and approved. Thank you, Council President. Those are all my comments.
We'll go to Councilmember Carbasi.
Muted.
You're muted, Councilmember.
I was all gung ho too. Thank you, Mr. President. And Councilmember Soria, you sound great. I'm glad you're doing better, and we all wish you well. You're one of us. We want to make sure you get through this. So first and foremost, with ICU bed capacity at effectively zero, we want to recognize our frontline healthcare workers, especially the nurses and staff working in our ICUs. They're probably witnessing the true impact of COVID and having to watch people alone because of protocols. They can't have loved ones with them passing away. And I can't imagine what they're going through psychologically, the toll it takes on you, but we need you. And I just want to thank you for what you are doing. It's important to recognize the contribution that you make. The other group that we need to also recognize are our small business owners. This is the largest employer in the country. These are people that live in our neighborhood. They're just like you and me, and they employ a lot of people and give them the opportunity to start off in their careers. And they're hurting really bad right now. And it's, our responsibility to find that balance on making sure we keep the community safe from a public health pandemic. At the same time, understand that we're going to have economic challenges moving forward. And the longer this is prolonged, the more businesses are going to go under and the more pain we're going to cause the community as well. So that balance is really important. This is the last meeting of the year, but I just want the residents of District 2 to know that, my staff is still working. And you feel free to contact us by email or phone anytime. I want to thank my staff members. I want to thank Chief of Staff Alyssa Stevens and Council Assistant Andrew Cluse. You guys have been great. Now, you can't use this to ask for a bonus, but I just wanted to thank you for what you're doing. You make it so much easier for me to be able to do my job, and I couldn't do it without you. And also the SAFER program, Senior Aid for Food and Resources, is still continuing. Now, on the week of Christmas and New Year's, those are the last 2 weeks, it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, instead of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because of the holiday. And seniors can still sign up. My hope is with the new administration, we're going to have more help come here for small businesses and especially our seniors. We want to be sure to protect our vulnerable populations as we move forward. And I consider small businesses a vulnerable population now. And hopefully we can continue providing more services next year, but we'll have to wait and see. There are some folks at the city I want to thank. First of all, Mayor, I know we're going to have time to do this in January, but I want to thank you, Lee, for everything you've done. 2020 has been a tough year. And that same goes for my good friend and colleague, Council Vice President Paul Capriolio. There'll be more time to do that at the swearing in for the new administration. But I also want to thank City Manager Wilma Kwan. We haven't had as much time as I would have liked to work together. I've only been here for a year and 4 months, but you've been really helpful to me, meeting the needs of my district. It's been really easy working with you. And I really appreciate the relationship we've been able to build, Wilma, and your service to our city for the last 4 years as city manager.
Thank you, Mike. It means a lot.
You got it. Sure. And most importantly, and this is my last comment, to the residents of District 2, I want to thank you so much for your trust in me. It's been, challenging times for us all. We're very passionate. We care about every aspect of our community, from our seniors to our small businesses to, all our residents. But we're working really hard and we're not stopping to make sure that we can get through this difficult time together. The last thing is, if you can, I know it's difficult for a lot of us economically, but if you can find a way to give, please do. Last week, Council Vice President Capriolio and I both made contributions for Toys for Tots. You know, people need help now more than ever. And if you have the means and the ability, even if it's a little bit, it goes a long way. Even if it's, you know, if you can make a monetary donation or a gift, that's great. Even if it's just calling a senior that you know, making sure they're okay, because they're probably pretty lonely right now with all the provisions. That would be a big help. If everyone just does a little bit, it actually becomes quite a lot. Thank you very much, and God bless you all, and have a great year.
Thank you, council member. We'll go now to Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. Just want to thank the mayor for his many years of service, not just on the council and on the mayors, but also on the planning commission. Lee, it's been great working with you. I know this is going to be our last official meeting, but you and I have a relationship that's outside of this building. That, you know, you've really been a great friend, mentor, one of my early supporters, and I never forget that. So I just wanted to publicly thank you for your years of service. And then equally, my good friend, Crown Jewel King, Vice President Capriolio. It's been really a pleasure serving with you, Cap. And you know, you came in the building a little bit before I did and left, and then you came back. But you know, I think, you know, we've had this conversation before, that it's a reminder of the cycles that go through, you know, government and Fresno City Hall specifically, where at the end of the day, every single one of us here, we're just passing by, you know, and while we're here, we're just trying to make things better and work, and we're not perfect. And I think an example of that has been this past year, that has probably been one of the most challenging years to be in public service. But even with those challenges, we've really, you know, stepped up, from the city council to the mayor's office to the city manager to our first responders. Everybody has just had an all hands on deck approach from the beginning. And, you know, I really do see the light at the end of the tunnel of this situation. And, you know, there's no reason why, even with the challenging year we've had, we can't all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, because I'm really optimistic about what 2021 holds. I think it's going to be a great year, a year of rebuilding and really connecting with a lot of folks that we couldn't this year, family, friends, and, you know, Paul, you're in that circle. Mayor, you're in that circle, the circle of trust, to quote Robert De Niro from that movie. But I appreciate both of you. I know we've been on the phone at midnight or right before midnight, as Council President says, burning the midnight oil many times, you know, in challenging triage crisis modes. But I've really seen both of your character, your integrity, and more importantly, your dedication and your commitment to this city. Not just District 4, not just District 6. You know, Lee, you've been very supportive of, you know, issues from Southwest to Southeast. And I guess you better be, being a Rough Rider. But I'm a little bit sad. I was thinking about this last night, where I think I'm going to be the lone Rough Rider now on this body. We got the mayor that was, you know, class of, I think it was class of 64. Councilmember Capriolio, Vice President Capriolio was class of 22. I too. but you'll,
right, okay?
but you'll always have a special place at City Hall, because I think everybody that comes through here leaves a little bit of themselves. And that's not just metaphorically speaking. I think we all sacrifice, you know, whether it's family and friends and things in our lives, but you guys have done a great job. And I just wanted to publicly thank both of you for your service.
Thank you. Councilmember Bredfield.
Yeah, I just want to wish both Mayor Brandt and Councilman Capriolo the very best. And both of you have served your constituents very well. I know you worked very, very hard. And you're passionate folks. We've often disagreed, we've agreed, but the bottom line is, as Luis says, all of us come in here, we do the best we can, we make mistakes, but we try to do what's right for all of our citizens that elect us and give us the honor and privilege to serve them. And you've done that. And I wish you both very well and best. and thanks for all that you've contributed to the city.
Councilmember Esparza?
I'll yield my time this morning. I will probably have some comments, just like the rest of you, after Vice President Capriello speaks.
Thank you, Councilmember Esparza. Let me just, as I introduce Councilmember Capriolio to finish us off today and give his parting words. You know, I first got to know the council vice president when I was Blanc Zhang's chief of staff, who was then council president, and we had to run the process for replacing the vacancy that Councilmember Westerlin had, created temporarily. And in the interview process, it was Council Vice President Capriolio at that time, as any good attorney, being asked some very direct questions from all the special interest groups and finding a way to stand on his principles, not commit and promise, any one group, whether it was FPOA or fire, that he was going to give them 100% raise and be there with them. He was honest, and he said, I'm going to look at all the evidence, I'm going to look at the facts, I'm going to make the best decision I can for the best interest of the city. And that is what got him the nomination and eventual approval by the council to make the replacement for Councilor Westerlin. And that's the way he's operated so far, in his tenure for all of us. But I do want to thank the council member for his grace, his advice, and his support. As you all know, it's been a lot of late nights of phone calls and emergency meetings and emergency agenda items and very difficult conversations for all of us, all while trying to keep our own family safe, ourselves safe. The level of stress is probably unprecedented from what any of us expected, much less what we've gone through. I always remind the mayor that we've gone through, mass shooting, a pandemic that's of course gone worse to a point of no ICU beds, 2 budget revisions, soccer, baseball. I'm kind of completely overwhelmed with too many crises to keep track of. But both the mayor and the council member have always been thoughtful and put the city's best interest first, and that's always have made it really easy for us to get through it. And the last point I'd like to make, 2020 has always been the year where the council vice president, every time we start a phone conversation on some pressing city matters, he starts off with, who's trying to take my money this time? and of course, it's always Councilmember Chavez, who's working his magic and landing his plane, in somebody else's backyard at somebody else's cost. But it's always been easy to start off a very difficult conversation about ICU beds, testing, contact tracing, budgets, with a very lighthearted giggle about who's taking his money this time. So with that, Council Vice President, you have the floor, and thank you again for your service.
Well, thank you, Council President, and thank you, colleagues, for the very kind and generous words. I'm so grateful to all of you and the administration for all the things we've done, but right now I'm just still overwhelmed. It's, there's the adage, it's better to give than receive, and in that vein, President Castro was the first man of the year for District 4, and we totally blindsided him. And after we got off camera, he said, I told you I would get you back, and boy, did he ever. I'm just still overwhelmed with this. I'd rather give these, give help and awards rather than receive, but to receive the ultimate reward from Fresno State is incredible. And I don't think it'll choke me if I try to sleep with it tonight. And it's heavy, it's great, it's amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you to him and Larry and Deborah and everybody at Fresno State. It's an honor to serve with those people. They are the backbone of our community, and again, the crown jewel of District 4. I didn't want to make any closing comments, really. I'm kind of lost right now, but I did want to recite a few things to everybody and on council comments and reports. So let's start with this. Santa's Village has been a partnership with the police department and my district for several years. So due to COVID, this year we did something different. Instead of Santa's Village, we did Christmas on the Block. And that was at Campus Bible Church on Maple Avenue. Great partners between Shaw and Gettysburg. So to be COVID correct, we pre-qualified 200 families that had some great needs at this time of the year. So what they would do is drive into the parking lot. A police officer would walk them through the whole process. And what is the process? They would drive up and receive food. They would receive fresh vegetables, milk, ham, etc. They would drive to the next station, and that would be clothing. So we had plenty of clothing, blankets. One family drove up and said, all we would like is some socks and a few t-shirts. Instead, they went on down the circuit, if you will, and received more than they could ever think to have. And really important was these families then would go to a position where we had trees and a Santa. And often they would say, we've never had a picture like this of our family with Santa, and the smiles and the gratitude that you could see in the face of all these people is amazing. So I want to thank the police department, thank the Campos Bible Church, great partner. We had help me out here, R2-D2 from Star Wars, and the big guy with the sword taking pictures. We had a princess from Disneyland. We had Danny Kim on his rickshaw giving people rides, all lit up. It's just people were just overwhelmed as we were to provide a joyous Christmas for those families. So that was really important. And so next, I want to just talk a little bit about the district. As Lee says, that's all I ever do is talk about the district. Not really, but I wanted to thank the following people for helping me with all the process that we've gone through in the last 8 years. So my colleagues here today, none of this could happen without you and your support. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I also want to thank some past council members, Sal Quintero, Steve Brandow, Clint Olivier, and OB3, Oliver Baines III, my brother, for their support as well. The administration, Mayor Brand, Wilma, Mark Standriff, Jim Shad, Tim Orman, Jaime, Jennifer, Scott, TJ, Brian, Russell, Deborah, Aldi, Bill Herr, Nathan Sanchez. They all made it possible. And most importantly, the VIP and the MVP of this team, and the captain, quite frankly, is my chief of staff, Laura Rios. So we couldn't do that, accomplish just a few things without that support and help. So bear with me a little bit. Very proud of the district. So as we've heard today, there's a multi-generation center. We have secured $10 million federal money to build this fantastic state-of-the-art community center. As my colleagues have heard me say way too often, probably, D4 has no community center. So with this, we're going to be able to put a 10,000 square foot building up, soccer field, volleyball courts, baseball courts, etc. And that'll be probably break ground probably in the next 6 months or so, or sooner if we can. It'll take a couple of years to construct it. It's going to be fantastic, and the community is going to love it. The other thing at 6th and Bulldog Lane, my colleagues authorized $1.3 million to purchase and develop 2 buildings. We're doing that at this very moment. We are taking the interiors out, and we're going to make that community centers as well. And we've already paved the lot, done the striping, done tree trimming, interior removal. We've got the whole thing going, and without my colleagues' support, that wouldn't happen. And hopefully those things will be completed sooner than later. And I look forward to working with Councilmember-elect Tyler Maxwell in the joint celebration and ribbon cutting on each of these projects that are coming down the pipeline. COVID has really set us back. We had planned conclusions, but instead we have to bear with this situation and do our part. The El Dorado Park area, we just finished repaving the alleys, LED lights, and that's where these 2 buildings are located. Bear with me, please. So Melody Park, that's located at Shields and Fowler Avenue. At that location, we've repaved that lot, resurfaced the basketball courts, created a shade structure over the kids' playground, repaired the irrigation, upgraded the lights in the ball field. And the key point now, and we have some photographs, if they can show those, that would be great. We have an $850,000 splash pad that is under construction at this moment as well. We've got the underground equipment installed. We're preparing for the cement, the underground equipment, the green top you see there. There's a massive tank underneath to recycle the water for the sanitary purposes and to keep everything going. And then to the right will be the cement pad and more equipment. That is just an amazing amenity that hopefully will be completed in the next 60 days. And Tyler and I could go out there and show the people how well District 4 is represented. Next, if we can, is Toll House. Toll House, we have a partnership with Kaboom and some financing, about $360,000, again, from my colleagues over the years. This just didn't happen last year, by the way, folks. This takes years and years and years to get to the point where you can complete these projects and get them going. So if you have the photo of Toll House, Kaboom is a great partner. They're out there this very minute installing a fantastic, we call it a tot lot. 2 days ago, that was zero. Now look at it. We've got the cement barriers. We're getting all the equipment installed, and we'll have a great playground for the people here. We also partnered with the Dream Center, which is across the street from the Discovery Center. I hope everyone has been to the Discovery Center on Winery. I was there when I was a kid, and I know Member Chavez will indicate that that was maybe a century ago, but it's still functioning. It's a great location. So the partnership with the Dream Center will provide another playground for kids. I'm happy to be a partner with them and make that happen. I don't know if we have a playground photo for them. A couple more things. Speaking of the Discovery Center, it's on Winery. We have just finished the paving of the parking lot. We installed a crosswalk for the kids to safely cross the street to enjoy the Discovery Center. We also have new lights scheduled and paid for, and they are going to be installed in the immediate future. Again, COVID has set back so many projects, but we don't give up. We fight hard. We keep it going. Another 5 minutes, if I may. Cary Park is behind Macy's. We've done irrigation repairs, brand new restrooms, new shade structures. Pétanque is a French version of bocce ball. So being Italiano, bocce ball is being played there. They have international tournaments at that location. We've also paved the street on the east side of the park in front of the elementary school. And the lights, my colleagues in our closed session, we have installed lights, but the issue is the contractor walked away, and now we have to go through the surety, the bonding process, et cetera, to get the electricity from the PG&E box, which is literally 100 feet away, to the station to light up Cary Park so we can have nighttime activities in baseball. So hopefully that'll be completed sooner than later. I'm almost done. At the airport, there is a new substation, police substation for police riding that we're processing as we speak. The chief is very happy about that. This building is located next to the fixed wing and helicopter area for the law enforcement. That's FPD and FSO. So we're working till January 7th. I'm not taking a day off. And the success of that location is dictated by the success of 6th and Shaw with the police substation there that my colleagues supported about 3 years ago. And last but not least is Vinland. That's at Gettysburg and Maple area. Again, there we upgraded the restrooms, the tennis courts, shade structure, the baseball field. It goes on and on. And the field was adopted by the rugby club at Fresno State. Again, another connection, and that's the men's club, which has 51 participants up until COVID. And the women's rugby has about 58 students that are participating at that location. We did complete the splash pad and water park there, and we're scheduled for new light fixtures at Vinland. And today, our senior meals are being distributed, 500 meals at that location. So thank you for indulging me. I could go on and on. I'm so proud of the district. I'm so proud of all of you that are recited at the beginning who made this possible. It could not happen without all of us uniting and coming forward with a great effort together to make not only District 4, but the entire city a greater place to live. And if a farewell speech, I could do that, because I would be remiss if I didn't thank my mom and as we say, I would be here if it wasn't for her, as well as my wife and my children, Rhonda Chavez Capriolio and JP and Lauren. You've all seen them grow up in the last 11 years of my service here. So anyway, I'll stop at that point. I'll reserve further comments. You guys are amazing. The administration's amazing. Our past council is amazing. And you know what? We're just beginning. This momentum will keep going. I think that COVID has challenged us and made us reach down deeper in our minds and our hearts to do better and better for our community. So thank you all again from the bottom of my heart. And this award from Dr. Cal.
Got it, Paul. We got it.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Council
Thank you,
President.
Council Vice President. Thank you for your comments. And just as a reminder, this is who Council Vice President is. He spent his whole speech talking about the work and the work of the district and the progress in the district. And that's what I appreciate more about Council Vice President, is that he grounds us back into what the taxpayers expect from us, which is not so much speeches and rhetoric, but work and progress. So thank you, Council Vice President. And with that,
action speaks louder than words. Action speaks louder than words. So thank you all.
With that, Council, we will go to consent.
Council President.
Yes.
I don't think we're done with the pleasantries yet. I think there are some of us who didn't.
All right.
A couple of quick words.
You have the floor, Council Member.
Just very briefly. I know some of us were, some of us skipped over that part during our council comments. But no, just want to wish a great farewell to Council Vice President Capriolio. Known you the last 5 years, and I guess our little tradition is going to get ice cream every once in a while and catch up. And unfortunately, we have not been able to do that in 2020, so we'll have to have twice as many ice cream dates in 2021. I've always half jokingly asked the Council Vice President when he'd retire. Right, I try to put myself in his shoes and think, wouldn't I enjoy myself a little more if I stopped working so hard? But I think just the fact that he's gone this long and this intensely just shows his heart for service. So, Paul, you're someone who walks these halls with the most effort put into really being a statesman, right? I mean, there are politicians and there are public servants and there are statesmen. And I think you exemplified that and really made the effort to practice that and set an example for how our public servants should be and should act. So thank you for your service, and we'll look forward to seeing you. I'm sure you'll be roaming the halls, either way, right? In office or not. But we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And let's get some ice cream.
Councilwoman Soria.
Thank you, Council President. I would be remiss if I didn't say, anything about Council Vice President Paul Capriolio. I have had the pleasure of serving with him for the last 6 years, and what a ride it has been, I will tell you. I think I've learned so much from you, and I probably taught you a couple things here and there. So just proud of the work that you've been able to accomplish, especially over the last couple years, really putting your foot, down into the metal and making sure that you delivered for your constituents and what they needed the most in your district. So congratulations on an awesome tenure. Thank you for always keeping me grounded, for making sure that I was brief, even though I failed every single time, because, I'm always long-winded. I love to ask questions. I think it is the attorney in me as well. And also, thank you for reminding me about the importance of pronunciating the T's and how important that is. But you're truly going to be missed, Paul. Thank you for being the big brother that I never had. And so I know that while you won't be here next year with us, I know that we will continue to have a good relationship. and that if we call you to help us on anything, that you will be there. So, and then just invite us from time to time to one of your nice houses. And again, thank you so much for everything, for your friendship, for being there, for sharing, some of the challenging moments that we've had as having parents with Alzheimer's, and that we shared those things because they can be difficult. And so it's always nice to know that there's someone out there that understands the trial of dealing with aging parents in those circumstances. And so thank you again from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
I wish I could be there in person to give you a big hug, but hopefully we will see each other soon, after this pandemic, and obviously after I'm no longer contagious. But anyway, appreciate you, Paul. And you're going to be really, really missed. I love your sense of humor. So take care, and congratulations on such a wonderful tenure.
Thank you so much. I couldn't do it without you.
Any other council members or the mayor?
Yes, I say a few words to my old friend Paul. Our families really go back really pre-high school. It was many years ago. Remember, Paul?
Yes, I do.
He's a Roosevelt High alumni, just like Luis and myself. A few years ahead of me, of course.
I'm a few years ahead of everybody, Lee.
Yeah, but I'm catching up, Paul. But it's been my pleasure working with you the last 8 years. You came on almost the same time I did on the council. And Paul has always been the consummate advocate for his district, as he's demonstrated today in his speech. And he'd literally, forgive the pun, but you've been an absolute bulldog on everybody on this council, and myself and my administration. And I appreciate that. And you should be the model, Paul, for council members who, one, advocate for their district and their people, take the big citywide issues on with a passion and an intellect that we all need to emulate. And really, you're my colleague, you're my friend, you're my brother. And I'll talk a lot more on January 7th about you and everybody. And I appreciate the council. We've went through the year from hell, all of us here, from Miguel said, from pandemics and murders and wildfires and economic calamity. What else could they throw at us? And really, as a body, we work well together as a model for leadership. We put aside some of our personal philosophies. We compromise. We're problem solvers. Because of that, our city is a better city. And I appreciate working with everybody, council president on down. From the bottom of my heart, it's been my privilege, my honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm the luckiest public servant in the world. Trust me, to have your companionship and this team. Fantastic. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? All right. Council Vice President Capriolio, let me finish off with saying that almost 10 years ago, if not longer, you promised me a visit to the cabin. It still hasn't happened. Although every time it's winter and it's time to clean it, you always invite me and I always say no. And unlike others on this call, I don't get to go to Montana. So thank you for that.
Well,
the one thing you did teach me, Council Vice President, is be proud of your old junky car. Nobody's gonna steal it, and nobody's going to try and ask you for money. So thank you for always being the fiscal conservative that you have been when it comes to, finances, except for your district. You're a very big advocate for your district. So thank you, Council Vice President.
Thank
and
you.
Now we will proceed with our consent calendar and unscheduled oral communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council on anything on the agenda, both on consent and anything not on the agenda, so unscheduled oral communication. So we will go ahead and take public comment at this time.
Excuse me, Council President.
Yes.
Before you go on, I just want to clarify that item 1G, which was actually tabled by Nelson Esparza,
Yes.
that being tabled to January 28th, and it's not being heard on
Thank you.
consent. Just to
Thank you.
clarify.
All right, this is an opportunity for unscheduled oral communication on the consent and anything not on the agenda. We'll start off with David. You are unmuted. You have a minute to address the council.
Council President, thank you very much. David Taub with GV Wire. Just have a question on 1MM, or if it could be explained, that when it says that the council could not follow the order of rotation. Does that mean for both the president and vice president, or just for the vice president? Just hoping I could get that clarification.
Is that your comment, David?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, the next person is Brandy. This is, again, public, this is an opportunity for you to provide comments to the council, not necessarily for us to engage in a back and forth. So with that, we'll go to Brandy. Brandy, you're unmuted.
I don't know why it takes me several times. I first want to congratulate Capriolio and thank you. I've taken my nieces to Discovery Center. It's amazing. Wish Brand well. Thank you guys all for the work you've been doing all this year with COVID and for being fairly blamed. Saria, I hope you get well soon. I'm trying to rush in a minute. Thank you for Pastor Scott. I want to speak on the incoming staff positions with the mayor's office and express concerns for the director of housing and homelessness and the opportunity we have. You guys know we have a crisis. It's been in the news, and we would benefit greatly from having someone focusing on as a leader to identify what isn't working and develop resources. While I know that HB is working hard to try to address issues, I feel that we need to take advantage of this position to find someone whose experience has been on the ground and involves a working relationship with those who are experiencing homelessness. This kind of experience is invaluable and crucial. We need someone with a deep understanding of what people are experiencing out there, and to also give a voice to those who are homeless, to bring, not only bring them to the table, but bring leadership. When I worked in human trafficking, there was a major shift when survivors were made part of the solution. There's currently right now what people hear, the voices of homeless is filtered through organizations and only through particular experiences such as addiction, and this limits our response. And there's currently a disconnect between the city government leadership and the street families, and trust is so important to facilitate change. We need someone who can listen, who will challenge the status quo and provide a vision. So I ask that you do your part to ensure that we are serving our unsheltered neighbors with dignity and wisdom and seeking to create sustainable change that results in people being permanently housed, and seek someone who is best to do that while allowing people like Spies and others to use their strength and expertise in the areas, other areas in the city where they can best serve. I also want to just really quickly mention that there are people that are in the hotels that you guys are changing into there have been evicted, and want to know if there was anything. I know you can't answer, but what was done, if there was any services offered to them and what happened to them, and make you guys aware of that.
Thank you,
Thank
Brandy.
you for all your work this year.
Thank you, Brandy. The next person is Matthew. Matthew, you are unmuted. You can address the council.
Thank you. I just wanted to real quick speak on the terms of my appointment by Councilmember Carbasi to the Fresno Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I don't know when that's going to come up if at all today, so I just wanted to say a few things real quick since I won't have time later in the meeting to be here. Thank you for appointing me. I hope to be a good advocate for advancing bicycles as a mode of transportation here in Fresno on the committee. And I would also briefly like say that for the Midtown Trail CEQA extension that I saw on the agenda today, I thought that was, I'm glad to see that work is continuing to be done on that, but I have heard concern from a few BPAC members that the designs as of now for the trail have not been shown to members of BPAC, and it would be good to see get an idea of what it would look like before construction does begin. Anyway, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Matthew. And thank you for your willingness to serve. Next person is Ms. Debbie Darden. Ms. Darden, you are unmuted. Ms. Darden? Oh, it looks like we somehow ended up with Ms. Darden.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. I want to thank you again. And I also want to just piggyback on what Pastor Scott has stated in regards to having the person fill the seat that he's vacating. It's very important that we put like-minded people in position. I know Arias, you know us very well, as many of the other city councils, when it comes to Golden West Side Planning Committee, that we hold people to the highest standard that supports and represent District 3. It is imperative that we get that position filled so that we can move forward. We have a tendency of prolonging things, which puts us on the back burner. I have sat at community meetings along with the Golden West Side Planning Committee where Sabrina Kelly has been a speaker in regards to many of the wrongs that continue to plague our community. I have seen it to where there wasn't very many, if any, other residents present, but her voice was heard in concern of what was going on in District 3 as a whole, and also West Fresno for all the residents that reside there. So I'm asking and hoping that that person would be appointed so that we can continue to move forward. And just to understand that it's another thing is to continue to right the wrongs, and you need like-minded people who will stand up and do that and be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Darden, for your comments. The next person is Des Martinez. Des, you're being unmuted.
Thank you, President Arias. And I'd like to say, get well soon, Soria. We need you. I'll have to protest COVID next time. So it was been reported that millions of homeless funding are sitting in the bank. It was just reported this morning at the FMCOC meeting that there has been awarded, Fresno's been awarded $100 million for homeless funding, and that 50 million of that is for Home Key, but there was the other 50 million. Only $5 million has been utilized out of that, leaving $45 million has been, I guess, sitting in the bank. If this can be verified, and if that's true, then why can't we have at least 2 managed camps in every district? I know Brennerfield doesn't like this, but 2 managed camps in every district and start processing people for shelters that want to get the help, and have the homeless task force that we're going to end up keeping deal with the criminals inside of these camps. We can have these camps and then process the people into shelters, and then go from the shelters into the transitional living. And by that time, we'll have more affordable housing built here in Fresno, California, where they can transition into that for permanent housing. It maybe has not worked in other cities, but Fresno has always been a challenger. They have always challenged ideas of people and stuff. And maybe this is something that we can make successful here. Because my concern is the city telling the state that we're going to have these beds available and ask them to utilize the services of the county and Paparilla House for the outreach, telling the people on the highways right now that there's beds available when there is no beds available. It doesn't make any sense to do that. We're asking for no more deaths on the streets. We are just now starting to get cold. I know it's late in December, but I believe the winter months are starting to, the winter weather is starting to come in. What we need in order to help end homelessness here in Fresno is we need detox shelters, we need MHS shelters, and we need affordable housing. That's the only way we're going to end homelessness here, because there is drug addiction out here. There is mental health out here on the streets, but there are people that don't have that. And the longer they stay out here, they will become addicted and they will have mental health illnesses. And in order to prevent that, we need to have other services where they can be safe. My camp is full and I can't take in any more people because it's just too much just for me to handle. So I just wish that we can utilize some of this land temporarily, you guys. Let's
Thank you,
get through the winter. Thank you.
Next and last speaker is Central Valley Urban Institute. You have the floor.
Hello, Council. Eric Payne, Executive Director of the Central Valley Urban Institute. Much of our work is grounded on the conviction of equity, access, and inclusion for all communities, for those that are on the margins of the decision-making process and policy. And we are heavily engaged in the work at the Housing Authority, and we recognize that Sabrina Kelly's nomination as commissioner is being brought forward to council for consideration. And we stand in strong support of her candidacy. We recognized during her tenure at Habitat for Humanity, through the park development in West Fresno, from engaging a diverse group of stakeholders and resident leaders during her time at Habitat for Humanity, to include the voices of those immigrant communities and undocumented communities, but more importantly, creating home ownership opportunities for low-income families of all demographies. And so we stand in strong support of Sabrina Kelly's application and candidacy for Fresno Housing Authority. And in shifting gears, I just want to say thank you, Paul Cap, for all your work on the council and your commitment to students and student voice in higher education, and the role that you've played significantly in building bridges with the community college system and with Fresno State. Thank you for your many years of service, and I hope you enjoy your time on the lake.
Which one?
Yeah, right. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Payne, and thank you, Trustee, for your 8 years of service to the State Center Community College District. It's been very well appreciated, and your advocacy and championship of the West Fresno City College campus has not gone unnoticed. With that, Council, I'm going to do a couple of things just to let you know. We're going to now approve the consent calendar. The items that were pulled from the consent will be addressed after lunch when we come back. After we approve the consent calendar, we're going to go quickly into closed session for one particular item related to the Grizzlies lease agreement, because we have legal counsel and consultants on standby, and they're extremely expensive. So we're going to approve the consent calendar and then go to closed session and return to discuss any items that are pulled.
One point, Council President.
Yes.
On 1PP, I had indicated that I wanted to pull that. Actually, I do not want to pull that. I had a question about it, got that answered, and so if we can include that as part of the consent, I'm perfectly fine with that.
So do I have a motion to approve the amended consent agenda item except for 1O to be discussed separately?
Council President, I'll make a motion. Just wanted to make a quick comment.
Give me 1 second. I have a motion by Member Carbasi, second by Member Soria to approve the amended consent agenda. Now we'll go to your question, Councilwoman Soria.
It's not a question, just wanted to make a comment on 1M. I'm excited about the continued partnership with Habitat for Humanity in building these homes that provide home ownership opportunities for working families in the city of Fresno. These are the types of projects that are extremely critical for our community. As we're facing a housing crisis, we welcome these homes that will be built in west of the 99 in District 1 in an area where it has been vacant land for many, many decades. And so we're excited about that continued partnership. We were able to see 3 families be blessed earlier this year, a couple months ago. And so just excited to be able to continue to partner with Habitat for Humanity.
Thank you. With that, Council, roll call on approval of the consent calendar with every item except for 1O that will be discussed separately. Oh, I'm sorry. We have our speaker.
Councilmember Soria has inspired me to make it.
Council, all right. Just know I'm going to try and cut it in about 5 minutes because we have very expensive attorneys and consultants waiting for us.
You know, we like to spend money, but no, understood. Okay. I want to thank the council for the support of the appointments. And a lot of people have called in about 1HH with Sabrina Kelly. I had the pleasure of speaking with her quite a bit. And I want to thank Pastor Scott for his endorsement of her. And I'm really excited to work with the mayor's office to sponsor that item to get her appointed to this very important position. Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other speakers before we vote on the consent? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Kurbasi,
Aye.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio,
Yes.
President Arias.
Yes. All right, Council. With that, we will discuss the 1O item after lunch. And after lunch, we will also discuss the timed items, including the naming of the facility in Southeast Fresno, the police station. Now we will convene a closed session. Legal counsel, will you outline the one item that we'll discuss in closed session related to the Grizzly Stadium?
Yes, it's a real property negotiation concerning Grizzly Stadium.
All right,
Is it
council. we'll see you
link,
on-
Council President? Separate
The
link?
link should be on your calendar.
Okay.
Thank you. For the record, there was, for the public's knowledge, there's no action in closed session to report out. And we're gonna proceed, council, with one item. Is the planning department online? Jennifer, Ms. Clark? You online there?
They are online, Council President.
Yes, we are
Thank you.
here.
Thank you, council. So I'm gonna start off with the remaining consent item that I pulled. And I just wanted the Director Clark to, for the public's benefit, to summarize the purpose of this amendment to this consulting contract. Jennifer Clark, you have the floor.
Great, thank you, Council President. So as you recall, a year ago, the City Council entered into a contract with Ascent to conduct a CEQA or a environmental impact report for the South Central Specific Plan area. It will take approximately 8 to 12 months to complete. Once a preferred land use alternative has been selected, the ad hoc committee and the mayor have still been meeting and have not defined that yet. So we needed to extend the contract for a year, and we needed additional funds in case that we have additional outreach and community participation related to this particular item.
Great. Thank you, Director. With that, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Member Karbasi with this wave of his magic hand. There is, we already took public comment on this item, so we'll go to roll call, please.
Was that a Maradona reference?
Yes.
Councilmember Britta Felt,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio, President Arias.
Yes. And council, I'm going to try and get through some of these quick technical items while we're allowing more people to join for the naming item that's scheduled for 1:30. The next item is 1QQ, a joint meeting of the redevelopment of the Housing Successor Agency. This is in my district, so I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Soya. Any questions from the public? Anybody in the public wishing to address this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Britta Felt,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi,
Aye.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio, President Arias.
Yes. Next item is a 10:05 hearing. It's a hearing to adopt the resolutions related to Community Facilities District Number 11, Annexation 116. I will open up the public hearing officially. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the council in this public hearing?
Which one is this one?
10:05, District 5.
There are none. No public comment.
There is no public comment. We'll turn back to Councilmember Chavez. Would you like to make a motion?
Motion?
I'll second the motion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Britta Felt,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi,
Aye.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio, President Arias.
Yes. Next hearing is a 10:10 hearing. Consider annexation of application number P20-00736 and tentative map track number 6310. This is in area number 1. I'm going to open it up for public hearing first. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the council in this public hearing matter? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the dais. I think I have one. Let me go to the public comment. Brianna, is that Ernie? Escobedo.
Hello, Council President.
Would you
Yes,
like
this
to
is-
on the public hearing item?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much. My name is Ernie Escobedo. I am representative of the developer D.R. Horton. We do want to address, thank you so much for having me, council members. We do want to address this. We believe that this is a great project. Considering the annexation issues that are revolving around the tax sharing agreement, I think what we want to do is we want to make sure that we've kind of vetted all of our issues. We do want to thank the city staff. We worked greatly with them just over the last month, wanting to make sure that we come up with the right solutions going forward. But based on the fact that there is not a tax sharing agreement currently signed, we would ask that you actually continue this item. We want to wrap up some loose ends with not only the city staff, but with also the district council member in District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Escobedo, for that. I'll return back to the council.
Council President?
Ms. Soria, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to continue if that's the wish of the applicant. Our office, I know, has been working with planning and the applicant to move this forward. One message that I do want to remind folks, and that I hope my colleagues, as many of us that have been on this council, have supported development in areas like District 1 and District 5, that we really push our county to help us reach an agreement on our tax sharing so that these projects that are coming before us are able to move forward. Because remember, we cannot move forward without a tax sharing agreement on these projects. But appreciate the work with Mr. Escobedo and the applicant. And we look forward to continuing it for hopefully early next year so that we'll resolve some of those issues or loose ends that were mentioned.
Councilwoman, can I have that in the form of a motion?
So I'll make a motion to continue it to January.
All right, there's a motion to continue. We'll allow you guys to figure out a final date that it comes back.
Yeah, no date certain. I'll work with the applicant to bring it at the earliest possible date that works for both of us.
So in that case, can I get a motion to table the item then? That way you guys can figure out the date.
Okay, perfect. Motion to table the item.
All right, I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio, President Arias.
Yes. All right, council, that brings us to the final of the easy items. So we're going to now proceed with the resolution by Councilmember Chavez to name the Southeast Fresno Police Substation the Officer Faik Bang Police Station. So Councilmember Chavez, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. It's Pia Vang. Appreciate the opportunity. I've been working with the family for quite some time now on figuring out how to properly honor Officer Vang. As many of you know, last year, last year, and I believe most of us attended the services for Officer Pia Vang. And, I think what makes Officer Vang really deserving of this was his service and his commitment and his passionate commitment to the community of Southeast Fresno. He has a very interesting story and special story that I think a lot of us can relate. As many of you know, he was born in Laos. And after the secret war ended, him and his family moved to the United States, first settling in Denver, Colorado, but then making their way to Fresno. And he grew up working in the fields alongside his, family. And I think that's something very special about how, even through adversity and challenges from a young age, he came to the United States and decided to serve his community. And if you look at his bio, in 1991, I believe, is when he joined the police academy and was one of the first pioneers and of our ranks for our Hmong officers in the city of Fresno. But one of the things I want to highlight for him is I knew Pia, and my father knew Pia. And what was really special about that relationship with my dad's limited English and with Pia's patience, they would oftentimes communicate. My dad had a shop right next to his property, and so they had opportunities to kind of just talk about family and the work that he did. And my dad always called him the cop, because he always had his attire on. But what also made him special is the fact that he lived in Southeast, he sent his children to schools in Southeast, and he served the community of Southeast. And that just kind of tells you a lot about his passion, his commitment. You could find him at, the local supermarkets. I ran into him a couple of times at Doughboy Donut, where he would very humorously explain what Lang Chow bread was, what taro bread was there. And that's who he was. He always had this humble, just really sincere desire to be part of our community. And he was part of our Southeast family community. And so, with the work that he did in Southeast, I thought it was very fitting to name the new police substation after him. That's located at Tulare and Argyle, not too far from where his family lives, not too far from where he lived and served. And so, with that, I wanted to bring this resolution forward and honor that police substation. And I want to give the family, we have his oldest son, Corey Vang, that's going to speak. And then we also have the president of the FPOA, Brandon Weimiller, that's going to speak as well. And I believe Captain Martinez is on as well. They'll say a few words. So with that, I want to make the motion to name the police substation after Officer Pia Vang.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah. And if we could call up Corey Vang, who's the eldest son, President Arias. I believe he's on the screen and waiting.
Corey Vang.
Corey, you are actually in as a panelist, so you can pop up your video and speak if you'd like.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. The city of Fresno as well, Councilman Luis Chavez, and as well Fresno PD for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of all of you guys. It's an honor to, I know we're not here physically, but through Zoom. I appreciate the moment. My father, he did, Councilman Chavez explained it really well, his lifestyle. He worked, ever since from his days as a kid, from the fields all the way to become an officer. And, through his, he was a very quiet person. He didn't really speak much, but through his actions, he wanted to show that he could be more than, just a regular person. So he did it through his work as well, through his the way he portrayed himself in front of the community, and he always wanted to lead by example. So, that's one thing that he definitely tried his best to show as well. He also wanted to try to represent the Hmong community the best way he can, show that while we are hardworking people and that we can definitely serve and give back to those who are in need as well too. So, as once again, I just want to thank the city of Fresno for giving us this opportunity as well, naming the station after him. Thank you, Councilman Luis, Councilman Chavez told me about it. I told him, I apologize. I don't have the right diction or connotation to explain how I really felt. It just left me very speechless at that moment in time. And I could only say thank you from the bottom of my heart as well for my family. We appreciate it. Each and one of you here as well. Thank you, the council members, once again, as well. Thank you, Fresno Police Department, for giving him the opportunity to serve the community and to show through his actions how much he wanted to be an officer as well, being an example for the Hmong community. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Corey. Next speaker is Brandon.
Brandon?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Proceed.
Thank you for having me here. There we go. I want to say thank you to Luis Chavez for reaching out and for, from what I understand, spearheading this effort. When you contacted me about it, I was overwhelmed. I thought it was really incredible what you were doing to honor one of our fallen officers. Pia being a first generation in the United States immigrant, I think what he did with his life was inspiring to all, but specifically to those in his community, that he applied himself early on and chose to thrive and strive and actually take that drive and commitment and turn it right back around into an active service. I know he served this community for well over 2 decades, and I think it's only fitting that you honor him in that way. And I just appreciate you allowing us to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Council member, any other speakers on this item?
Yeah, I believe we have Captain Martinez on, who's our captain of Southeast. If he wants to say a few words.
Captain Martinez, you have the floor.
I still don't see that I've come up, Councilman Chavez. Am I on?
Well, we can
Yes,
hear your
sir.
audio, Captain.
Yes, sir. Oh, he muted himself.
I should be good now, right?
Yes.
Okay. First off, thank you for having me. Greetings to the city manager and all the council. There, now I believe I'm on. I'm sorry, this technology got me a little bit today.
It's okay. We still use flip phones around here, so you're fine.
While working through it, Captain.
Thank you for having me and just allowing me to speak a little bit about PIA. When I was told about this last night, it was more just to give you a little bit of sense of what PIA was in Southeast. And our trips here working in the Southeast Policing District really didn't overlap too much. We worked for about a year together. And he had just had probably almost a 20-year run in Southeast and had just been selected for a special unit a short time after I got here. And so we overlapped for about a year, maybe a year and a half. But in the short time that we worked together, he was just one of those guys that was always polite, always hardworking, and always doing the extra stuff, things on his beat, things with the community. And so those kinds of efforts were always really appreciated. But the thing that comes to mind when I think about PIA was that tragic last day. And the weird part about it that maybe a lot of people don't know is that he's one of those guys that when the day was over, he didn't just leave like many of us do. You know, a lot of people when it's quitting time and you take off. And he's just one of the guys that would always stop in the lieutenant and the sergeant's office and just say hello and that the day was done. Or he'd stop by my office and tell me what was going on. And it had to at least be a formal goodbye. It had to at least be, you know, a formal, how was your day? It had to be that kind of stuff. And he did that with other members too. He did that with the officers that would be in the report writing room. And it was just always a smile and a greeting. So that was kind of cool about that. But as I said, what comes to mind is that when we got the tragic news of the collision, I just remember thinking, is that the guy that just stopped and told me goodbye like an hour ago? Because something had happened. There had been some time. He either forgot something or something was going on, but it wasn't immediate. The collision didn't happen right after we saw him. It happened like an hour or so later. And then you add in the time of, you know, they're putting together what took place and who's involved. And oh my God, it's tied back to Fresno PD. You know, we have to notify them. And so we got the word about 90 minutes after it happened. And I remember walking down the hallway and asking people, because I still wasn't sure. And I said, is that the same guy that just stopped and told us all goodbye? And so it just, it makes you appreciate, I guess, you know, the people that go that extra mile and just stop for a few minutes. And when they ask you how your day was, they're really waiting for your answer. You know, they're not just saying it because that's a salutation to say. And so when people talk about him visiting people in grocery stores and, you know, stopping to say hi at a restaurant and stuff like that, I have to believe that he was using that same genuine self. when he's asking these people what's going on in their neighborhood, when he's asking these people how he can help them, he really meant it. And so that's the small snippet of Pia that immediately comes to mind when someone asks me, what do you think about? It's kind of a bad day, but a very, very great memory in a very bad day, if that makes sense to you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain, and thank you for your service. Council, allow me please now to go to the public for any public comment on this matter. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on this? For some reason, Councilmember Butterfield, I'm showing you, oh, there we go. We have somebody there. Member, looks like Director Barfield.
Well, good afternoon, Council and City Manager. We just are excited about this opportunity that Councilmember Chavez is putting forth. As you know, that land where the station was built was actually Fax property. And Pia's last assignment was with Fax. So his passing was very tragic for many of us who would listen to his voice on the radio every day, responding to calls and helping people in the community. But that's just who he was, someone who loved this community. And so I just want to say thank you to the council member and thank you to the family for bringing forth this tremendous opportunity to honor Pia's service. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Barfield. I'll now bring it back to the council. Any comments from the council before we go to roll call?
Council President.
You have the floor, Council Vice President.
Thank you. Just to confirm what's been said, I distinctly remember his funeral, and it was an event, and the convention center hall was full of family, supporters, people he met, people he'd helped, people he had touched. And to see the volume of people that were present and the accolades that were announced regarding this individual and his impact on the community was just, I had never seen anything like that. And I remember it very well, and I think it truly reflects on the character of this individual and the impact he had on not just the community, but the city of Fresno, as well as the police department. He has been missed, and this is an appropriate resolution to honor this fantastic person. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council?
Council President, I just want to say a brief remark. I want to thank Councilmember Chavez for bringing this. I think that today and Pia's memory will live long in our community. But again, he represents, what Fresno is about and what makes up the city of Fresno. And it's ordinary people like him doing extraordinary things without waiting for the recognition. And so that's what's beautiful about this. Again, an ordinary individual just doing extraordinary things in our community to make this community better. And so I'm proud to be able to support this so that Pia's memory can live forever in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. If there's no other comments, I'd like to just to close with a couple of comments of my own. Councilmember Chavez and I were part of the Fresno Unified family when we got to name, Vang Pao Elementary after General Vang Pao. And that was such an amazing experience to see what it means to the Southeast Asian and the Hmong community to see one of their own displayed in such an amazing facility. And, this reminds me of that moment. If you ever have the opportunity and the privilege to attend a Hmong funeral, it's something that you can't walk away and not recognize the contributions of that whole community and the tight-knit family that they have. It also reminds me of unfortunately, the mass shooting that occurred in Fresno this year, where Councilmember Carbasi and I had the opportunity to, break bread with the Hmong families that were impacted by that tragedy. And I remember Councilmember Carbasi being in the backyard and the families cooking for us, and my kids were present. And it was just to see their modest home, the things that they cherish on the walls, the stories, the faces, the pictures of them serving in the military and saving American lives. And it just reminds me that this is what makes Fresno great. The immigrant community who come here with nothing, not even boots to pull themselves up with, but contribute, do their part, start from not knowing the language to serving as an officer to gaining the respect of a community at large. And, I'm honored to be part of naming a city facility after somebody who's given that much public service, but also honor the fact that the young kids in this city are going to look at that building and say, okay, when you do public service, when you live a good life and raise your family and, make the sacrifices that your parents went through to get here, that's the kind of respect and honor that you get back from a city as big and as diverse as ours. So it's an honor to be able to be part of this. And to Corey, you lost your parents, your dad, you lost your dad, and that's tragic. But I hope you understand that this naming is not just about keeping his name alive, but about recognizing his contributions to this community and to his Fresno family. And, to his parents who may still be alive, you did well, and you should be proud of the son that you raised and the grandkids that you've raised. And thank you for the sacrifices that you've went through to allow one of your own to serve our city. And thank you, Councilmember Chavez. You always find a way to cement the memories and the contributions of people in our city in a permanent way. So with that, I'm honored to take a roll call vote if there's no other council member comments.
Yeah, no, President Arias, I just want to, just for the record, thank, because you're right, there were a number of people that helped in this effort. I want to thank former Councilmember Blanc Zhang. I want to also thank Fresno Center Director Pao Yang for helping facilitate with the family and the family. More than anything, Corey, he has two other brothers and one sister. And I know it was a little difficult when we were having the conversation, but this was a great way to honor Officer Pia Vang. Thank you.
All right, council. With that, we will take a roll call vote to name the Southeast Police Station after Officer Pia Vang. Roll call, City Clerk.
Councilmember Bretta Phil.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Soria.
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprioli.
Yes.
And President Arias.
Absolutely, yes.
7-0.
Thank you, Corey, and thank your siblings, and thank you to FPOA for participating, and Captain Martinez. To the lighter issues first before we move on to the heavier issues before us. The first item is in the special meeting notice, the resolution directing the use of general funds to pay for the COVID-19 response measures. That is recommended by myself, Councilwoman Soria and Chavez as part of the COVID committee. That includes the mayor. So with that, is there a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Member Chavez, second by Member Soria. Let me go to the public. Any member of the public wishing to address this item? We have one, Lisa Flores.
Really quick, how much money are you guys looking at spending from the general fund, and in what areas do you think that you will be spending the money in? What are you guys projecting out until some more federal relief can come to us, hopefully in January? Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And we'll be happy to update you that after the meeting, Lisa. So I'll make sure to call you with some details. Any other members of the public wishing to provide comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. If there's no discussion, I'll do roll call.
Mike.
Member Carbasi?
You're on mute,
Yeah.
Councilmember.
We missed all that great opening, Member
There
Carbasi.
you go. I was.
Before you start, Member Carbasi, let me make sure we have the right people. City Manager, I think we needed our controller, Tim Orman, and maybe the mayor if there's any questions. Go ahead, member.
I just wanted to talk about the need for this policy and, with the general fund, just get more feedback because we got this kind of late. I have a lot of trust in the committee, but can you give us some more background on what the implications are going to be financially for the city with this?
So I'm going to try and take a stab at summarizing it, but the good news is I have an attorney and a controller who can correct me if I'm wrong. But essentially what this item does, council members, is all the funds that we get under CARES Act, they said they currently have a deadline of December 30th. So either we spend it or we have to give it back. As you know, we extended contracts until early next year, February 28th. There's a lot of purchases for the fire department and police department internally that are still coming through and being delivered. So what this item would do is any of the resources in the CARES Act that are not expended by December 30th would essentially go into a general fund and would become general fund so that money can be spent and have to be given back. So I think I might have made that more confusing than needed to be, controller, or legal counsel, but you guys can correct me.
Did a good job, Council President.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's not gonna expend any general fund dollars now, council members. So our general funds are not impacted, but it would allow the money to go into the general fund to be expended for the purposes and the contracts that the council already agreed to.
And Councilmember Carbasi, just to elaborate a little bit of that, hopefully I don't confuse it as much as Council President did. Basically, it's just to keep the current services that we have going, continuing through the middle of the pandemic, with regards to contact tracing, to testing, to support services and things of that sort. That's really the reasoning behind it.
Got it. Thank you.
I could add on top of that, we're working in tandem with Fresno County too, because the pandemic's not going to stop on December 30th. It's going to continue. This allows us to continue all the services that are necessary for our people. So I support it.
All right. If there's no other questions, we'll go to roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio,
Yes.
President Arias.
Yes. And let the record show that the mayor supports this. So if any of us go to jail, the mayor's coming with us.
You won't be mayor then. He'll be in vacation. So.
We'll be coming back.
He'll have the best attorney available.
All right. So most importantly, council, all kidding aside, the measure that we just approved also gives a level of relief to our controller that all the funds, will be, in the right category, in the right budget lines when and if we ever get audited by the Department of Treasury. So Mike, controller, you now have the ability to sleep better and you can release money as fast as possible.
No more excuses, Mike.
Oh, I'm sure I can find a few more, council member, just for you. I will. But thank you for this action. It's very helpful.
Controller. With that, council, we're going to move to the next item on the special meeting notice, approval of material terms of the amended lease with the Fresno Grizzlies Baseball Club and authorize and direct the city attorney to complete the agreement and the city manager to execute the agreement consistent with the terms approved by the council. With this, council, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? I know there might be some changes we have to consider.
Second.
I'll make a second, Council President, but I know that
Yes.
I want to just make some clarification.
Okay, so let me start off with mine, Councilwoman, if you would. So my motion is to approve with direction to staff to complete the operational agreement that would allow the non-baseball days to be immediately utilized by the city and the public within 60 days of action of approval of this item. Is there any other direction or clarifications that the council would like?
Council President, I would like to just add to your motion that we exercise and that we don't just give authority to the administration, but that it is on the record that we will be reviewing for the purposes of knowing how financially the team is doing in terms of its agreement. So on an annual basis, as stated, and it's allowable.
So to be clear, Councilwoman, your direction is that the agreement get audited annually?
Yes.
By a third party.
All right, by the third party as outlined in the contract. All right, so we have a motion to approve with direction to complete the operational agreement within 60 days that allows the non-baseball days to be used by the city and the public. Direction that the agreement and the finances be audited annually by a third party as outlined in the contract. That is a motion for the public's understanding and the council. It's been seconded. Allow me to go to the public first, council, and then we'll come back for comments. Is there anybody in the public wishing to address this material changes to the lease agreement for Chauncey Stadium? See none, we'll bring it back to the council. Is there any comments from the council on this matter? Councilor Butterfield, you have the floor.
Yeah, I wanted to address a couple of things. Yeah, I was aware of the press conference yesterday, and there were some short-sighted criticisms that were made at the press conference that I feel like I need to address before we vote on this. And I will be supportive of this. Some of these criticisms that I heard yesterday were, frankly, some of the same short-sighted criticisms I heard 20 years ago, 10 years ago, but 20 years ago when we were looking to build the stadium. And I want to be very clear, I supported the building of the stadium and proud of it. I think it was the right decision. 20 years ago, that stadium where it is was dirt. The entire area was blighted, mass blight. We had a terrible self-image in Fresno 20 years ago. There was a lack of community pride. There was no economic development taking place in our downtown. Numerous attempts to bring professional baseball had failed before we came on the council. And the council that I served with at that time said enough was enough. There was an outcry to get professional baseball and to do it in a first-rate way. Now, who were the people that supported this? Well, it was former Supervisor Henry Perea, who I served with, had the proud honor of serving with, Supervisor Sal Quintero, Dan Ronquillo, they called them Downtown Dan, and Tom Boyajian. And we met with numerous economic and political challenges to get this accomplished. It wasn't easy. Some felt it should be a modest stadium, only people sitting on berms, on grass. Some people felt the stadium should be 6,000 seats, 8,000 seats. Some felt it shouldn't be built at all. Some felt it should only be built in North Fresno. And the majority of us felt it needed to be downtown. We needed to do something to stimulate the economic development downtown. We needed to do something for development, housing, to improve the civic pride. Let me be very clear. Building that stadium was never about ticket sales, never. It was about revitalizing, bringing back civic pride, stimulating development. Now, over the course of these past 20 years, we've had 400 to 500,000 people come to that stadium every year. That's 8 to 10 million people. We have 500,000 people in the city of Fresno. 8 to 10 million over the past 20 years. We sold out that stadium at least 5 times. We have 12,500 seats. We've had, in one soccer game, 16,284 fans. We had another one, 16,125. Baseball had 14,000, 15,000, and 14,000. If we'd have built an 8,000 seat stadium, we needed 2 stadiums to fill it. We've had national recognition as a result of the Grizzlies. They won a World Series as a AAA team. We've had their National League team win 4 World Series. Chauncey has invested $1 million every year for the last 20 years in naming rights. We've had the best naming rights deal in all of baseball, and they're not fools. They believed in the economic development downtown. The stadium, frankly, has been a jewel in the downtown. It's been the #1 stadium in our country. It has been part of revitalizing and creating new homes, national recognition, and there's been a multiplier effect. Now, what's the multiplier effect? That's what we were doing. We were trying to get economic development, housing downtown, buildings that had been stagnant for decades to be built. I want to go through some of what's been done according to the Fresno County Economic Development Corporation. We've had a warehouse road that has been $13 million. The SBA building, $7.2 million in renovation. The fire department headquarters, 2.5. The district court, 130 million. Bitwise South Stadium, 7 million. By the way, Jake Sobral, who's the CEO of Bitwise, has said publicly he would never have brought his company downtown if not for the stadium. He's invested 7 million downtown. The Lighthouse for Children, 15 million. UCSF Fresno Center, 26 million. Santa Fe Depot, 10 million. The Metropolitan Museum, 28 million. Doubletree renovation, 7 million. The IRS Compliance Center, 35 million. Guaranteed Building, 18 million. Civic Center Square, 30 million. TW Patterson Building, 2.5 million. Holiday Inn, 10 million. One Putt Broadcasting invested 2 million. The Grand 1401, 700,000. The Martirosian Law Firm, 3.5 million. Fulton Street, we invested 20 million. Everybody remember that? Heron Jaguar invested 10 million. The Cosmopolitan Restaurant, 3 million. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. A mixture of public and private dollars. Wouldn't have happened was a stimulus from the stadium. Let's talk briefly housing. We've had the Fulton Village as a result. This is all housing around the stadium. Fulton Village, 6.9 million. Vagabond Lofts, 10 million. Ironbird Lofts, 10 million. Broadway Loft, 4 million. City View, 11 million. The Brio on Broadway, 7.8 million. The Van Ness Cottages, 3.2. Bungalow Court, 1.2. Crichton Place, 6.0. 1612 Fulton, 5 million. The Lead, 13.5 million. This resulted in 459 housing units, families living downtown as a result of that stadium. $78.6 million invested. That's property taxes and sales taxes. Transactions between buildings that have been stagnant, that were dormant. Pacific Southwest Building purchased 2.4 million. The Grand, 5.2 million. The Bank of the West Building, 4 million. The Crocker Building, 3.7 million. Virginia Hotel, 3.25. The Rowell Building, $2 million purchased. And by the way, that was renovated for 25 million by the Cashins. The stadium has been a complete success. Everything we had hoped it would be. Housing, 500 units, refurbishing of old dilapidated buildings, civic pride, revitalization of downtown, entertainment for families, 8 to 10 million people. Public and private investment of hundreds of millions of dollars, increased property taxes and sales taxes into our general fund. Yeah, we should have built it, and Fresno citizens are better off because of it. Now, it's always easy to be a Monday morning quarterback 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years after the fact. It's much harder to get something accomplished. And trust me, all the decisions we have made over the last 2 years to 4 years or 12 years, they will be Monday morning quarterbacked 5 years from now and 10 years from now, and it will be easy to criticize. We should have built it. It needed to be a first-class, first-rate stadium. It is. It wasn't overbuilt. It wasn't overhyped. It was supported by people from the chamber to labor unions to the current mayor at that time, Mayor Autry, to the one who was running against him, Mayor Whitehurst. And it was the right thing to do. And I'm happy to support this. Unfortunately, Major League Baseball has a lot of power and obviously has done something now 20 years after the fact that it's never done 100 years before and taken our AAA team. I'm happy to support this. We're going to continue with baseball in our downtown, and Fresno's going to be better off for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, for your comments. Councilmember Esparza?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I think Councilmember Bredfield summed it up all pretty well with a lot of great detail. But I think, taking a look back at the last couple weeks, we were all kind of caught off guard and thrown off our footing the day before Thanksgiving, and really want to commend this team and all the folks who were involved, right, for coming together and making this happen. I think it was clear, going into this issue, that the most important thing was to keep a team in the stadium. This has tremendous implications for downtown, the city at large. And again, unfortunately, Fresno was the casualty of this reorganization by Major League Baseball. But fortunately, again, I think with what we have here, we're going to keep a team and keep the door open, for future prospects as well. So I'll be happy to support this today. And again, just want to thank everyone who was involved in making this come together.
Thank you. Councilwoman Soria?
Thank you, Council President. My remarks will also be brief. I think a lot has been said by two other colleagues, and I don't disagree that, or I'll just say I agree that building the stadium was a good thing. I may disagree with the size of it, but I think it is what it is today. And what we need to do is what we're doing today is being leaders. And, you know, it may not seem like for folks, because it is more money that we have to put out as a city. It's just a reminder of the fact that parks and amenities, entertainment amenities that we want in our community are going to require subsidy from our government. And that as we are moving forward in investing in neighborhoods and other places in a variety of our districts, that we remember that places like the stadium, like parks in our community, are not money makers directly. There are indirect effects that result as a result of our investments, as mentioned by Councilmember Bredefeld, housing and other private investments that come in. So as we think about investments in our parks, in our neighborhoods, that's why we are calling for more parks in South Fresno, more parks in District 1, where we only have, you know, very few, because we recognize that when we build amenities like the stadium, that it does, in fact, can attract private investment and good development in neighborhoods. And so I want to thank again, as Councilmember Esparza mentioned, everyone who stepped up to the plate to get this done. It wasn't easy. It is a tough vote, but I think that it's a necessary vote so that we can continue to move our city forward, and that we can continue to have an occupied stadium that is affiliated with the MLB. Thank you.
Councilmember Carbasi, then Chavez.
Thank you, Mr. President. So for the District 2 residents watching today, this is not a fun vote. This is the vote I'll probably like the least of my time here so far on the council. I don't want to sugarcoat this. Fresno taxpayers are subsidizing baseball in Fresno. Now, I think Fresno was better off having AAA baseball, but I think it's important people know that when it looks like when this stadium was built, the decision was made that we're doing this knowing we may not break even, because this is a way to stimulate downtown. Councilmember Bredefeld mentioned some of the investment that's occurred. But for me, I don't want people to think because I'm going to support this, that I'm automatically going to support the next thing that comes in and creates a debt for this city. I am very, very hesitant to cast a yes vote, but I'm going to do that today. But I do want to acknowledge that we pretty much were in a rock and a hard place. It's probably impossible for us to have anticipated these moves by Major League Baseball. And they do have a great deal of leverage, but we have to be practical at the same time. And I want to thank a lot of folks who worked behind the scenes to gather all the information. Of course, the mayor was involved in that, but I want to thank Tim Orman. I want to thank City Attorney Doug Sloan. It's been a pretty intense couple of weeks, but I think given the fact that we have our backs against the wall, you probably worked out the best arrangement that we could possibly hope to get. And I just want to acknowledge that. You know, it's just tough because as we move forward, I think we need to be very careful when we decide to take on more debt, especially if we didn't learn that in 2008 with the recession then, we should learn it with the recession in 2020. Having reserves, having ability to bond out, and having, like with the animal shelter, and having a good financial position is really important. So moving forward, I'm going to be have even more scrutiny for these kinds of expenses. Thank you again for all your hard work, and let's keep baseball in Fresno and do it as fiscally responsibly as we can.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. This isn't a very difficult vote for me. I don't live too far from downtown, and as many of you know, the city of Fresno has been going through its constant evolution of faces, and it's gone back and forth. And I agree with what Councilmember Bredefeld said in really quantifying the investments that have been made in downtown because of the amenities that we've invested there long term. And I think that's what was a big factor in my decision, where, you know, the city of Fresno is playing the long game. It was never intended to be a profitable venture, but I think it is. And here's why. I know we're focusing on the bond payment that taxpayers have to absolutely pay to the tune of $3 million, 3+. But what we're also not looking at is the multiplier economic effect of driving that much traffic downtown. I remember when that stadium was a parking lot, and I would go shopping there with my family. We'd go into Luftenberg's, we'd go into the Mammoth Mall or Gottschalk's, and it was that traffic that really filled up the coffers of the city of Fresno. So I think as we go down our next page in writing the city of Fresno's history, I think where we have an opportunity is in making sure that the public understands what this investment actually yields. The hundreds and thousands of people that come downtown and go and patronize our businesses down there, whether it's Los Panchos or Kakis or Modernist or Tioga now, that is money that is directly infused back into the city coffers. And I don't think we've done a really good job of quantifying what that economic impact looks like for the city of Fresno. And I think once we do that, we'll see that this has actually been a profitable venture because of that multiplying economic effect that we have on the heart of the city, which is really downtown Fresno. And I know there's some folks that have talked about that. I think that's something that we really should get serious about doing, whether it's working with our partners at EDC or another entity. They have the data of how much tax revenue those businesses generate down there. And I agree with what Councilmember Bredefeld said, but he missed one of the biggest, and I'm serious, one of the biggest events that the city of Fresno has hosted at Chachansey Park. And that's because it was a very memorable moment for me, where I was the judge of the 9th annual Taco Throwdown, where I ate 20 tacos. Yes, 20. But that put Fresno on the map. We were on national news. And I think those are the types of events that we can capitalize on. We have that amenity there. We just haven't been able to maximize the usage in it. I mean, we were on national talk show hosts about our events that we're having down here. And I think as part of this next chapter of this renegotiation, we should really get serious about either allocating a position for somebody that can manage those events and attract those events, or look at contracting with a vendor that has those connections that can bring those types of amenities and entertainment opportunities for our folks. Because when they're down there, they go and have a couple of beers at Tioga, they go and have a couple of drinks at Modernist, or go to Club One, or many of our businesses that we have there, which, by the way, are the majority of them when corporate America decided to leave downtown Fresno. That's who filled the vacuum. A lot of our small business owners that are down there. And we should figure out ways of supporting them, not just with events like this, but with other events that we can capitalize on, utilizing what Fulton Street now looks like. And so with that, you know, I'll just say it again, it's not a difficult decision for me because of the returns that the city will ultimately get, you know, long term. It's like when you put a down payment on a car and, you know, you finish paying it off in 5 years. And then after that, you have a little bit more flexibility of what you can do with that property. I think, you know, future cohorts of council members and mayors will have an opportunity to write that chapter, but it'll be because of those investments that the city of Fresno made by the, you know, generosity of their taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Let me try and finish it off with a couple of comments. I've said my piece in yesterday's press conference. And first, let me acknowledge that the developments that the council member referenced were not the direct result of just a stadium. but of former mayors and council members and private investors and people who decided to invest in Fresno. And as a council member who bought downtown 15 years ago, who lives, works, and plays in downtown, I can tell you that I didn't move to downtown because there was a $45 million stadium there and baseball. I moved there because there were sidewalks and good roads, and there was a park being built, and there was synergy, and there was young folks. So the same thing that North Fresno, Southeast, and Central Fresno, what people want is a neighborhood where there's plenty of offerings. You can work, you can live, you can socialize, you can go to dinner, you can go to a neighborhood park. My struggle in this whole conversation has been that we have failed in the past to be transparent and to be truthful, that this is an investment. And I would support those who've said it's a justified investment, that you got to go big to get big returns on investments. But when we had our budget hearing this last year, the second one of the year, and the council wanted to fund a community center for a district that doesn't have any, there was arguments made that we should not be using general funds at all for community centers or for parks. They should all go to hire more police officers. All the general funds should be going to police officers. And if it doesn't go to the police officers, it's being misappropriated and misused. And that's just false arguments, because we know that without a team in Chichansi Stadium becomes the biggest and most expensive community center in the city's history. And in the past, we haven't taken advantage of the non-baseball days. That's why the provision's there for us to finish that operational agreement. To Councilmember Chavez's point, we ought to be having events there. It shouldn't just be a stadium where a couple thousand people play baseball on a given season. It should be more than that. And that's my struggle, is that too often folks use a justification that if it doesn't make money, you don't do it. The stadium has proven to cost us $45 million and just as much money on the operational subsidy. Now, if you think that's worth the return on investment, great. It has been a catalyst for downtown. It is an integral part of downtown. But if we're gonna credit the stadium with building a courthouse, then we should also credit it with building a high-speed rail station that some people think is a boondoggle. We should also credit it for, building, the small business next door. The fact is, everybody has been part of downtown revitalization. Councilman Bredefield has been there. I've seen him vote for downtown investments in my tenure here. He's a big champion of downtown. But just the way we're a champion for the baseball of Fresno, we ought to be champions for the park in West Fresno, the community center in Bulldog Lane, the community center in Central Fresno. We ought to be doing that too, because in my district, I have 5 community centers, and they need about $20 million. If I was to bring that forward today, I would hear from some people, it's too much money. That's too much general fund money. It ought to go to police officers, because that's what we need. That's our number one priority as a city. And my point is this: I work, live, play, and own in downtown. The stadium is for baseball, for soccer, for concerts, for community events. I want us to reset expectations that a community center and a park and a baseball stadium make us money because they're providing a service to the public. And we shouldn't simply reframe some things as worthy of investment and other things as too costly for investment. So I'm going to be fully transparent with the public, because when the community in West Fresno comes to me and tells me the swimming pool hasn't been operational in 10 years, the roof is leaking on the community center, if the city can tell, why can't they fix the leaky roof? These are all real conversations, and they exist across the whole city. Potholes I still have a dozen schools without sidewalks around them that we got addressed. So I just want us to be real about it. It's not to dismiss the investment of the stadium, because everybody has had a role in revitalizing downtown. It's just to remind us that we ought to use the same commitment for the rest of the city and the rest of the neighborhoods when it comes to basic investments. So with that, I hope that concludes it and we can do roll call.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi,
Aye.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Caprielio,
Yes.
and President Arias.
Yes. Mayor, thank you again for your service. Myself, I think it was Chavez and Bredefeld who are trying to, get this agreement in the best interest of the taxpayer. So thank you all for the work. Tim, Doug, Dan, everybody, MLB. It's been a tough 2 weeks, but we got this to the end point. So thank you all. And hopefully we'll see everybody in the next baseball season.
Add, Council President, I want to thank the council for stepping up. This was a really, really difficult decisions, and decisions we made are made in real time. Everybody's always second guessing down the road, but you guys did the right thing. I also want to thank the Baker family and their partners for sticking with the city of Fresno. And I think we made the right decision today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. All right, council, now we're up to our last item before we go into closed session. It is a resolution declaring a state of emergency due to insufficient intensive care unit beds and medical personnel in the city and county of Fresno. It's requesting relief and additional support from the governor. And in addition to that, it is making it clear that the city maintains its ability to enforce rules related to mass gatherings. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Chavez on this item, and then we'll go to the public and come back to the council for discussion. Councilmember Chavez?
Yeah, thank you. Just to kind of summarize this item, in the previous conversations that we've had, there's been obviously an interest in ensuring that we have, some kind of proactive measures for ensuring that our community is staying safe, they're staying healthy. I think what this does is it codifies the conversations that the council has been having from the beginning to more recently, where we're now asking Governor Newsom to provide us with a couple of things. One, being more relief for adding and expanding the ICU bed capacity. Two, at the urging of Councilmember Soria, two was additional vaccines for our essential workers, which we know are the ones keeping food on the table. And that's important to keep in mind as we just went through Thanksgiving and we're about to go through Christmas. These are the folks that are putting those fruits and vegetables and dairy products and meat products on our table. So it's important to keep that in mind as we're working with the governor's office to securing more vaccines here. But then the third one was, just letting the community know that we want them to be responsible. We want them to exercise personal responsibility along with their rights that they have. I don't think anybody is, reducing or diminishing that. We want them to be safe. And I've always said that, City Hall or the state can make 100 different laws, but if people's behavior doesn't change, we're going to end up right in a situation where, unfortunately, a lot of other jurisdictions are, where you have hallways that are now packed here locally with COVID patients. I was just informed yesterday that they are now turning away folks that are unfortunately terminally ill and not providing them with the equipment that they need and sending them to either hospice or back home. And that's a sad narrative to have here because I think the purpose of every action that the council has taken was to not overwhelm the medical system here locally. That's always been at the forefront of the decisions that I have made, very tough decisions. I think everybody, our colleagues included, are now at the point where we're fatigued, we're annoyed, we're angry, and quite frankly, sick and tired of this pandemic. I am. I don't like wearing a mask. I don't like using hand sanitizer. But I do it not because I'm naive enough to think that it's going to eliminate COVID, but it sure as heck helps in reducing it. And that's really the goal here. We're about to enter a very critical time period for our city. where the last thing as a elected official that I want to see is an overwhelmed medical system here locally. And so with that, you know, we obviously want to reserve the right to levy fines on those that are being egregiously irresponsible. And by that, let me be very specific so people don't interpret and interject their own definition. People that are having backyard concerts, inviting 50 or more people, charging $10. I've had in my district over 10 calls in these past 2 weekends of folks that are doing that. Sadly, we know that 10%, based on our local data that Dr. Vora and Dave Palmaville have told us, 10% of COVID infections are going to ultimately end up in our emergency room or hospitals. Just yesterday, we had 475 new cases. That's on top of the daily average that we've been having of 376. So that number is very sobering for me. I don't think there's anybody in the city of Fresno now that doesn't know or at least knows of that have been affected by COVID, which is across the spectrum, whether you got mildly sick, really sick, or unfortunately passed away. That's a very scary thought to have in our community. And so I just want the public to understand that everything that drives our actions is to try to keep people safe and healthy. By no means do we think we have all the answers or know everything. We're just going off of what our medical experts are saying, our local data is showing, and more importantly, what we're hearing from our local hospitals, our local clinics, our local service providers. These numbers are real, and I want our residents to understand that these decisions are not easy. We do them very cautiously, and we just want to make sure that folks are being responsible and not, you know, providing conditions where we can potentially have super spreader events. I think it's not too much to ask. We're about to enter a very critical time, like I said, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We do have a vaccine coming. We do have multiple treatment plans that are now operational, but we want to make sure that we don't, like we said in the beginning, we don't overwhelm our medical system. And right now, from what the local medical folks are telling us, we're at critical mass and we're at a tipping point. And so that's a very simple proposition that I want to make to our residents. You have the power right now to either decide to be responsible and minimize this, or to be irresponsible and contribute to the increased numbers. I hope and I have faith that, and I know that the majority of people are out there doing the right thing, but for that small percentage, we just ask that you think of others and not yourself. We all have constitutional rights. Nobody denies that. But along with those rights come responsibilities. And I think this is a time when we can exercise both of those. And so with that, I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Council President.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Sawyer, you have the floor.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Chavez. I think that you summed up pretty well what this resolution is trying to do. Again, it is our intent that we urge the governor and our state leaders to really see to provide additional investments from the state to our local healthcare system. This morning or earlier this afternoon, I received an email. I've been in conversations with Community Medical Center trying to figure out ways to increase ICU capacity. And while they do have additional rooms that could be converted to ICU, we are facing a crisis in staffing. And that's not just here in Fresno, but across the entire state. It is generally required that you have at least one registered nurse for 2 patients, and on a 1-to-1 ratio for those that are acutely sick. And what is happening is that there's a lot of our healthcare workers that are out as a result. And so what we need is really the help to get additional healthcare workers in our valley to staff up and increase those ICU beds. And so I know that CRMC is trying to work hard to make that happen. There is some good news, I think, along the way that we are going to be getting some relief, but we can't just rely on that. We also need to do our part, as Councilmember Chavez mentioned. We're in this together, and it is imperative that not just our council, but that our leaders in law enforcement, that our leaders at the county, that we are saying the same message and making sure that people are doing their part. If we all do our part, our small businesses can get back to some level of normalcy where they're not being impacted as they're being impacted today, because we are at no capacity in our local hospitals. We also want to make sure that those that do get acutely sick get the necessary care that they deserve. And we want to make sure that our workforce isn't fatigued, so that when you arrive to the hospital, if unfortunately you need that type of care, that you receive the care that would be appropriate so for you to get better. So with that, urge not only the governor for additional support, but also urge all the residents of the city of Fresno to do their part in making a difference in this surge, and hopefully helping flatten that curve so that our hospitals don't continue to be overwhelmed.
Thank you, Council. Councilmember Carbasi, can you allow me to go to the public first and then come back to you, to the rest of the council?
If I can comment, because there may be a change, that way we can have comment from the public. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
You know what? You're right. Let's hear from the public. Let's get their feedback first. You're right. Let's go ahead and go to the public.
Okay. Let me go to the public. We'll start off with Brandy. Brandy?
Hi, thank you. I just want to thank you guys again for being mindful of the strain that's being put on our healthcare workers. And I appreciate what you said, that it was pointed out by Esmeralda, that we're not just lacking space because people have said, why can't we expand and go back into convention center, but that we lack enough healthcare workers, and that there's those who are out, and that there's lack of it, and that we need. Thank you so much for the time and the action, and thank you for taking the extra days to determine what is reasonable and what needs to happen with in our community as far as this action in this past week. I'm hearing from so many people who are being affected by this, including someone who is someone I know whose friend's loved one was turned away because of having cancer as well. And also hearing from friends who have whose loved ones have had a long process of just getting to a bed. We are, as I mentioned the other day, we are, there are consequences to our actions, and we're seeing the consequences of our actions as a community for not being careful enough. And I'm sorry that the leadership is being blamed for what you're doing to keep safe. And that there's so many of us who understand that we need to. None of you like to do have to do restrictions. None of us, and we understand that this is to save lives. And I want to thank you for the previous action to save to ensure that our CARES Act money stays with us, so we can continue helping our community, and for seeking the state to be able to do what we can to support our community, and recognize that we do need to do our part as a community as well with this. So thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Lisa Flores.
Sorry, I had to put my dog down because she enjoys your meetings, guys. Yeah, I know. First off, I want to remind you guys to get the word out that finally the phone app is up and running. The exposure notifications on both iPhones and Androids is up and running, which will tell you if you're within a vicinity of somebody who's been ID'd as COVID and such. So I would encourage you guys to get the word out in the community, because that will help. And I'm kind of wondering, why is the number 50? Me being this little high-risk heart patient and being home for 9 months and minding my P's and Q's and, being very cognitive of how this pandemic is basically history repeating itself from the 1918 pandemic. I'm just wondering where the number 50 comes up. And as far as medical staffing, we could put, Celland Arena full of beds. But what it really breaks down to is you have 50 states in crisis and just a finite number of medical staff. And it's just really sad that, for the majority of you, you have been on point, on message about community safety. And I'm not going to talk about the one who hasn't. I'll deal with him later. So, what is the bigger game plan here? What happens if we can't find the staff? Do we all go out for waffles? What's the deal? But I really would like to see the number dropped because 50 is a large group.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, council, we'll come back to the council. Member Carbasa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate all the comments of my colleagues and the public. It really does help to hear your perspective. I want to ask the city attorney a question, if he can come up on the screen. So if you look at the language, point number 2 says the city reserves the right to pursue enforcement against those in violation of state and local emergency orders, including mass gatherings and illegal concerts events if COVID-19 numbers in the city intensify. Doesn't the city reserve that right? That seems a little bit superfluous to me. Doesn't the city reserve the right to, through code enforcement, already incur penalties on folks?
Yes, right now, state orders are incorporated into the city emergency order, and then there may be other potential violations such as noise that could be pursued, or this could reflect that additional ordinances might be approved.
Okay. Thank you, City Attorney. See, the thing is, I think it would be really, really good, especially when it comes to the discussion of ICU bed capacity and the need for resources. There's no question about that. That's a no-brainer. Having a unified vote makes a big difference rather than splitting this, adding language that, in my opinion, is superfluous, but also it's divisive because it was released last week. We've had a lot of feedback from the public, and regardless of how we may feel, there are a lot of folks out there that are offended because they feel like it's an attack on small business or attack on their livelihoods. That may not have been the intent, but that's the reality of how it's viewed, and we have to be sensitive to that. I really do want to support this item. I'm trying to find a way to support it. We don't want to create a situation where we put our frontline healthcare workers and our nurses in the tough spot where they're having to pick and choose who gets a ventilator, who gets a bed. And I'm extremely worried about that. But at the same time, for backyard concerts, I believe we already have the necessary tools and noise ordinances and a statewide curfew where code can already justify enforcing that. I know it's a really scary time. I've got an elderly parent at home. I'm paranoid for him. I don't want him to be at risk. But we can't lose our common sense because we're afraid. We have to understand that when this is over, and we're going to get through this, if we're all careful, we're going to still have to have a community. And dividing that community is dangerous. So we've got to be really careful how we tread along this process. I think that this may seem, simple, but we need common sense and common decency at this time. I see the parties. I see them in my district. It upsets me. I think it's extremely selfish to have a party right now. That's a choice you make. I disagree with it. I think it's wrong. But what would be better is to have neighbors speak up and the community to speak up and say, hey, this has to stop. And to me, it's a public shame if you do that kind of a thing because it shows selfishness. But to divide and have this language in here and kind of whittle down this whole message about ICU bed capacity, I think is where it kind of loses me. And of course, having a fine at Christmas time when people are losing their jobs, it's not really the right kind of message. I think we're gonna lose a lot of the intent by how divisive this point is. So I think it's not really a solution because it creates another problem, and it can create an economic problem for folks. We don't know how this is going to be distributed. So I respect where my colleagues stand. I'd like to support this. So what I'm going to do is make a motion to separate point 2 so that we can vote on that separate point, and then we can vote on the ICU portion.
So council, before we do that.
I will vote against I'm going to be frank with you. I'm going to vote against the other part.
Before we go there, allow me to acknowledge Councilmember Esparza before we start taking motions for amendments.
But I make a motion, Mr. President. I apologize for point of order. I made a motion though.
And I do second it.
Okay. All right.
There was already an initial motion, right?
There's a motion to approve and seconded it. So
Yes,
they're
it is.
asking for a
Yes.
motion, a competing motion to separate.
Oh, that would be a procedural motion.
Correct.
Correct.
Separate.
We at least allow Councilmember Esparza.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Esparza?
Yeah, so ultimately, I'm supportive of this measure as is written currently. I would say I don't think there's anything too new in this language. As Councilmember Carbasi alluded to, I mean, the city has always reserved the right to enforce, but I think it's also exercised a lot of discretion in that matter. Additionally, we can ask all we want of the state, but when we have our county leaders, the sheriff, and our own police chief consistently undermining public health orders and recommendations, I mean, I really wouldn't expect much help that we're asking for. And in fact, I mean, it is because of the lack of leadership and the inconsistency that we've seen at the state level, and really just the astounding lack of action by the county that these decisions and these resolutions are falling on us as sort of a last resort. I think, again, we have to meet the moment and step up and stop watering down our legislation. I think all of us, I mean, the members of this council need to stop paying lip service to the healthcare workers and the essential workers who are dying on the front lines of the crisis, while also trying to get watering down legislation. I voted against the removal of the item on Tuesday night because I thought we at the very least needed to have the discussion. Our healthcare system really isn't heading towards a tipping point. It's pretty much already there, and I'm not sure what the distinction is there, but we need to do more than talk the talk. We need to walk the walk, and I think this resolution, as written, is probably the very least, very minimum we could do. In fact, again, we should be doing more. Again, as sort of the last backstop for our local community here.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. President, there was a reference to my comments, if I can comment. Councilmember Esparza, I do appreciate what you're saying. I mean it. I'm not just saying that. It does, it falls heavily on me. The comment about lip service to frontline healthcare workers, the danger in America today, the danger with the pandemic is there's a craziness out there that's happening where it's either or. And I've said this before. You can be compassionate, but also understand there are other perspectives. You and I may share a different perspective on who we're worried about in the pandemic. I think we're all worried about healthcare workers. We're worried about the public. I tend to be worried about the livelihoods of people, the kids that are out of school, and the impact it's going to have once COVID's over. We're going to have years. There are people that lost their jobs that don't have food security. They're going to get health problems from this. There's a very big picture. And I think we can have a 7-0 on this vote by saying pleading to the governor, taking that leadership position. But because of the information that was released earlier this week, it's created more division in this community. You put this in there, it's not going to be a 7-0 vote. It's going to offend people that took that took it the way they took it. And that's not going to help our community. I'm trying to create unity moving forward. It doesn't have to be, you don't support this, you don't support healthcare workers. I support them when it comes to making sure we have the resources we need. And you're right, a lot of it's on us. In the end, it's the local leaders to kind of clean up the mess of the state and federal government. You're right. I'm hoping the new administration is going to make a big difference on that front. We'll have the resources we need. But it's not either or. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. It's not either or. I think that we can create unity on this. I think you kind of mentioned it. It's pretty superfluous. We already have the authority to make our code enforcement do this. I think the intent was code enforcement and not PD. So why not have a 7-0 vote?
So if you would allow me, council members, to just speak on this item, and then I'll go to Councilmember Chavez, who made the motion, because there is a request amended. As a person who took the blunt of the criticism after It was reported that we're gonna go into people's homes during Christmas and cancel Christmas. I can tell you that all the emails and Facebook messages, mostly Facebook messages, only 2 emails, 1 phone call, and multiple Facebook messages. The 1 phone call was from a thoughtful constituent who's vulnerable and was concerned about people walking into their property in the middle of the night to find them. The 2 emails were thoughtful, and they were also informing us that people are having big parties and that they were concerned and that they didn't want to, be reporting them, but that any other time they would be reported based on the noise nuisance and police would show up. But police isn't showing up for noise nuisance at this time. All the Facebook messages were all racist, period. They were simply racist. Those people don't move my decision making. And it's because here's the reality. I happen to have multiple congregate work settings. We just shut down Foster Farms for an outbreak there. 8 people in Livingston died because Foster Farms wouldn't shut down early enough to sanitize. They shut it down earlier here. I have Amazon with thousands of workers under one building. We pass rules where they notify all the employees, not just the person next to you, because it's a congregate work setting. I have community medical centers. Those folks don't have to, who are saying us mean and racist Facebook messages, number 1, don't live in my district. Number 2, primarily don't live in our city. And number 3, they're not the ones who have to look at the packed hospitals. We have no more ICU beds. We can't create them overnight. There is no more medical staff to staff a backup hospital at the convention center. This is a moment that we were all trying to avoid. It's not that we're making things up. Unfortunately, in Fresno, the cameras haven't been allowed into the hospitals so people can see folks waiting in line. I mean, the resolution reads clearly, 12 people in the hallway waiting for a bed. ICU beds are gone. I'm losing sleep over the fact that if my son gets sick today, he's not going to the hospital. If my daughter who has severe asthma gets sick, she's not going to the hospital. I have to explain to a 14-year-old that she'll probably have to stay home and die there. There is no more what if. We are in the what if. And some of us were, not as cautious. Some of us engaged in philosophical and theoretical debates, but it's here now. We are here at a point of no more capacity. And we all agreed that we're doing this to protect the capacity of the healthcare system. The healthcare system is in the brink of collapsing before our eyes. Not fake news, not made up, not over-exaggerated. It's here. So what I'm wrestling with is the resolution was written thoughtfully. It just states the facts. According to the health officials in the hospitals, there are no more ICU beds. There is no more medical staff to staff a backup hospital locally. To those people who disagree, to the people who are having, I have a church in my district having an indoor concert this weekend based on their constitutional right to do it. But that pastor doesn't have to be at the hospital turning away families. He's not the doctor or the nurse putting their life at risk when there's no more beds working 20-hour shifts. I don't know how to take the politics and the personal feelings out of it, except to stick to the facts that we are here. And if we don't do something, if we don't send a message that's clear, Chief Hall's intervention on this policy matter disturbed me for one reason. Chief Hall hasn't been to the hospitals. That's not his job. But he hasn't been inside those hospitals. He hasn't seen the fact that there's no ICU bed. So as much as we're trying to work through this and give one unified message, I am at my wit's end. We've tried multiple times to do the best that we can. And I try to, look through the eyes of Council Vice President Tambriolio. Let's be a statesman about this. Through the eyes of Mayor Brand, let's take the feelings out and do what's best for the city as a whole. through my lived experience and Nelson's lived experience and Esmeralda is home with COVID, people are dying. They're dying right now. And if we can't seem to get on the same page on a basic notion that this emergency and this crisis is on the verge of collapsing our healthcare system, and we need to do something. If you don't like 50, if you want 100, if you want 200, then say so. We'll figure something out, but we got to send a message that it's not okay to have a concert when there is no more hospital beds. And then I'll leave it up to the council.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
regarding before, 1 second, Councilman Ritterfeld, regarding the racist emails you got, that's not okay. And I'm sorry you had to experience that. I don't know what more to say about that. It's just a very divisive time in the country, and that's unacceptable. I'm sorry you had to face that. My office did get 52 emails, 10 voicemails, in addition to dozens of calls on my cell phone and the office line about this issue. So my reaction from my constituents was a little bit different, just to share that. You actually are correct. The first page of the bill, it's all factual information. No question about that. I fully support that. Now, we're doing this. I don't really know how this bill is going to deal with ICU capacity. I think it's a good gesture to get the governor's attention. And I think we can do that more with a 7-0 vote. But the comment is, we shouldn't water down these bills. We also shouldn't water down the constitutional rights of people. When that information came out early, without being fully vetted by the council, it became a Fourth Amendment right issue for a lot of people. We may not like it, but that's what happened. This is going to create severe division in our community. All I'm asking for is, it's superfluous. We already have this ability. Let's take it out and let's vote. I'm assuming 7-0 on a vote and send a unified message to the governor that we're really concerned about ICU capacity. We already know we reserve that right. And I think that those stories earlier this week sent a message to the public. But the other thing is, the last thing I want to add, I get it. We're all frustrated. It's trying to balance a lot of things and realizing we have to get through this and be a unified society that holds on to our constitutional rights. But I took an oath to defend the Constitution. I feel compelled to do that. And if we can show very specifically how this action leads to this, that's fine. I think everyone knows you can't have a concert. Everyone knows that. And we'd have the support of that. But that's not what this says. Let's just stick to the ICU portion, and let's do this unified.
Council President, did Member Chavez have an amendment? I thought he's indicated that.
I think he does. Want to speak, Councilman Chavez?
Yeah, no, I deliberately let the conversation go on. I think it's a good debate. This conversation that this body is having is what has been occurring throughout our country. I don't know at one point in our nation's history did we somehow manage to politicize a public health issue with conversations about what works, what doesn't work. These are the times when we're supposed to trust our medical providers. And, everybody that knows me knows I'm a common sense guy. I'm not a conspiracy theory. I'm pretty savvy about navigating the politics and the theatrics and everything that's involved in that. And for me, it's not about that. This is a point in time where after this is over, I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say that we did everything we possibly could to try to save lives. And the argument I heard, whether you were on either side of the aisle, was that, hey, we started this approach to minimize and try to reduce overwhelming our healthcare system. And the data and the numbers are there for anybody to examine. And that's the beautiful part about math, that it's universal. It doesn't lie. 1 + 1 is 2. Bed space right now is what it is. And we have to act. It's not a popular thing to do. And I said earlier that, we all have constitutional rights. Everybody that knows me knows that, whether it's the Second Amendment, whether it's like Councilmember Carbasi said, the Fourth Amendment. I absolutely respect and revere those. What I also respect and revere is personal responsibility and the responsibility that goes along with that. Councilmember Karbasi's right. Everybody knows that they shouldn't be having concerts right now. But guess what? They're having concerts right now. And I understand the frustration of people. I'm sick and tired of this shit already, of this situation. I don't like wearing masks. I don't like using hand sanitizer. I miss going to the bar and being with friends. But I'm also at least have some common sense to know that by reducing those actions, I'm actually contributing somehow to making sure that we're reducing the numbers of COVID in this area. That math that I referenced earlier about the 10%, that comes directly from our local health providers that are seeing that on the front lines. And maybe I'm a little bit sensitive because I have family that works in those hospitals. And the fact that those nurses and doctors have to get to their home and decontaminate in their garage is very sobering for me, because we oftentimes live in our bubble, right? If you're a council member, you're seeing things from a perspective. If you're a small business owner, you're seeing things from that perspective. If you operate a laundromat or a entertainment center or a movie theater, we all have our perspectives. But here's the one thing that I know that our city is capable of. And somehow along this pandemic, we lost that ability to really come together and at least try to build consensus on minimizing the risk, the exposure, and the COVID infection numbers that right now is ravaging our city. I don't think anybody that you ask that simple question out in the street doesn't understand that hospitals are overwhelmed right now. And based on the numbers that we're seeing, the simple math, we're going to have to deal with this. Now, this letter, this request that we're sending to the governor, absolutely, Councilmember Esparza's right. The Central Valley always gets left behind. I don't expect that the governor is going to allot those resources just because everybody's stretched so thin. But we at least have to ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get it. Now, here's one of my biggest concerns, and this is really what keeps me up at night. What is the city of Fresno going to do next week when all of the 375 positive cases that we've been having on a daily basis averaging, now 10% of that has to go to the hospital, and we don't have the facilities to provide medical care? I spoke to that family that got turned away at one of our local hospitals, where this individual is terminally ill. And the response he got was, there's nothing we can really do for you. And we've decided to triage our operations. And you can either go to a hospice facility or you can go home. Like, that to me is the most basic dignity for a human being that is on its last phase of life. That's a very sobering number. And to me, it's not about politics. It's not about, your whether we're stripping your constitutional rights. There are people in all of our families that have fought and died for those constitutional rights, and we should never give those up. But we also should participate in personal responsibility and sacrificing a little bit just to try to get through this. And Councilmember Karbasi's right. We're going to get through this. There is light at the end of the tunnel. But what we're trying to do today, and the goal today, is to just let folks know, please be responsible. The vast majority of our residents are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Many of us are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We hate it. It's annoying and very frustrating. But that's the sacrifice part. That's what's really made our country great, where in these times of need, these times of challenges, we can come together, sacrifice a little bit. It's the same argument that we've had when, I get a speeding ticket. I know I went a little too fast. I probably shouldn't have done that. I don't feel like my constitutional rights are violated to speed. I hate wearing the seatbelt. Everybody that knows me knows that my car has to remind me 10 times to put my seatbelt on, but I do it. I do it because it's what's going to keep us safe. And so in that spirit, I understand what's going on right now. I know we represent very...
Member Chavez, I hate to interrupt you, but is this an amendment? I thought you had an amendment.
I'm getting to that, Vice President.
Okay, well,
So we have this conversation that has been ongoing for a while. I'm okay splitting those two up. I'm okay agreeing to that amendment. If that's a comfort level for my colleagues, I'm very respectful of the constituents you represent and your districts. If that provides a comfort level, absolutely.
Councilmember Bredfield?
Thank you. I appreciate that, Councilmember Chavez, because I can support it if we split it up. Everything in there I agree with in terms of getting assistance for our frontline workers, helping with the ICU capacity, fully supportive. My hesitation is the same as Councilman Carbasi. I don't like the whole enforcement aspect to it. I think, as we've talked about, people have had tremendous fatigue over this now. It was 14 days to stop the curve has turned into the nine-month nightmare. And we've gone from roadmaps to dimmer switches to color-coded systems to goalposts that move every day to emergency breaks to elected officials who put mandates that they never follow. And people have lost faith in any people espousing more lockdowns. Lockdowns, frankly, they just don't work. I mean, we've had lockdowns, and here we are 9 months later, and we have COVID spiking because it is a virus, and it is a very contagious one, and it spreads. And the fact is, we have fined people over $80,000 in the city of Fresno. We've supported businesses being shut down, and people have lost their businesses, never to return. Livelihoods have been negatively impacted. Lives have been negatively impacted. We have schools that are completely locked down, have been in extended lockdowns that make absolutely no sense from science. We even have Dr. Fauci, who has said kids need to be in school. We have kids committing suicide on virtual learning classes of which they're never learning. We know that kids 0 to 19 age, according to the CDC, recover 99.997% of the time from COVID, and yet they're not in school. And so a lot of the policies that have been imposed make no sense. We are dealing with a virus. It's a serious virus. We have a council member, Soria, who's been diligent, obviously, about wearing masks, handing out masks, and has gotten COVID because it is highly contagious. And so I share the feelings. I understand the passion from my colleagues on this. We've differed on the procedure and how to deal with it. I haven't believed in finding businesses. I believe businesses can follow the same CDC guidelines that a Walmart or a Lowe's or a Home Depot can follow and run their businesses just as safely as any other business. And yet, I think some of the, quote, cure that we've imposed has been worse than the disease. So if we can separate it, I'm fully supportive of it. I like the idea of asking the governor, who is historically, most governors have ignored the Central Valley to assist us. I just am not going to support any more, not that I have, enforcement lockdowns. I think some of these have been unconstitutional. We've seen they have been across the country. Some of them, I have said, I think have been fairly draconian measures. And we've hurt people through these measures. And it's not anything I'm going to support. So if we can extricate that second number 2, I'm happy to support this. And I think it would be good if we had a 7-0 vote to support it and get away from the lockdowns and the enforcement aspects, because it is about personal responsibility, and people do have information and they have to make choices to keep themselves safe. That's what this is about. We live in America. It's a freedom. We live in freedom. And the Constitution doesn't get suspended because there's a virus. There's nowhere in the Constitution it says that. So I appreciate Councilmember willingness to separate.
Absolutely agree, Councilmember Bredefeld, and I'm agreeable to that. But since we're out here having a very honest conversation, I guess my question for yourself and for Councilmember Carbasi is, what should the city do for those folks that have backyard concerts with 50, 100 people in the back? Should there be any penalty for them within that approach that you're taking?
Can I?
I want to hear the answer.
Yeah.
So,
can I ask you one question specifically to Member Chavez's point? What should the city do when Pastor Franklin's is having an indoor concert next weekend, which is not allowed or recommended by CDC.
So that was a conversation the council was having. And when that information was prematurely released, that's what messed everything up. It's really easy to attack Chief Hall. I know we disagree on this, Council President, but when he had no idea that the intent was not to use police when we've had a record number of shootings. Look, he sees tragedy all the time. From when he first came on and saw last year's mass shootings to seeing the record number of shootings we have in this community and dealing with that crisis in the midst of everything. So I don't agree with that statement, but the council was moving in that direction, and that all changed because of a decision to release information. So I'm not prepared to discuss that because now we have a new debate. Whether or not we agree with the perception people feel, and they rightfully feel, their constitutional rights are being taken away. Instead of talking about public health, we're moving in that direction.
I understand.
Council President, I've been very patient.
Yes.
You asked the question, Mr. Council President. What should be done about Pastor Franklin or anyone else? My answer is nothing. People have masks. They understand about the protection. Whether or not, I mean, some people disagree. There's research that said an N95 is the only mask that really protects. Having said that, people have choices and responsibility on what they do. And if they feel that going to a concert, they will be safe, they ought to be free to do it. That's the way I feel about it.
Councilmember.
Well, to add to that, then I feel a little bit differently. You know what would make a difference, guys, is a bill where we come together and demand the county give us the freaking data. So when I go to people and say I have to shut you down, hey guys, this is how I'm doing it. It's like we're steering a ship, but we have no map or sextant. How can we do that?
No,
we need the data. Let's do that.
I appreciate Councilman Redefeld's honesty here, yes. And this is the last thing that I think, because I think we're at a time and space where we can wrap this up. That's what the language was intended to do for Councilmember Carbasi and Redefeld. If you look at it, there's no specific on what that looks like. All it does is it essentially tees up a conversation for later when we have the need and the crisis a little bit more pressing than it is now. There's nothing in this that outlines the specific numbers or what the penalty will be. It's essentially just ensuring that as an option for later. And I understand Councilmember Bredefeld's point. He's just a no regardless, and I respect that. On his side. So I think we've all said what we needed to say. I think we're ready to vote, Council President.
Councilmember, let me allow to get some clarity. So first of all, I want to say, as much as I disagree with my colleague Bredefield, I respect the fact that he's very clear about where he stands. So
honest.
Appreciate that. Secondly, the motion is to separate the two items. So we're going to take two votes. One vote on item 1 and a second vote on item 2, just so that we're clear. So, yes,
Council President, being a statesman has its limits.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I mean, I've heard the same dialogue over and over, and I'm getting frustrated.
I understand.
So I've been trying to get involved here. Actually, this is not that complicated, and here's why. Number one, the resolution is to help get support for our community, to contact the governor to help us fight this pandemic, and a plea to the governor by way of resolution. But what has happened is, due to some hodgepodge of ideas that the council exchanged in last week, all of a sudden, in which there was no consensus at all on numbers or dialogue or otherwise, it was just comments. That became released. However, I'm not sure. I wasn't involved with that. But what has happened is now that release has become a flashpoint. And what happens when you have a flashpoint? You lose sight of the message. You lose sight of the purpose. You lose sight of what we're trying to do here and accomplish. So now we have this flashpoint that we have to calm down. So again, as a result of that, which is to no fault of any of us, to my knowledge or information, now the result is we have to get back to the message. And the message is more state assistance from the governor to our community to fight COVID. We have to return to that message. And I support the amendment to strike the second paragraph. And I hope everyone can exercise and be aware of and implement common sense. It's an individual decision, but please, everyone, there's no doubt about what's going on. So just use common sense and let us use common sense by voting for the message to the governor and hope that he listens and backs up what he says with assistance to the city of Fresno. Thank you.
Councilor Vice President, thank you. We're gonna go to the mayor before I clarify what the actual amendment is. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. You know, we have this enormous responsibility. And I said back in March, this is literally the only decision I've made that it is a life and death decision. So I don't think anybody disagrees on the consequences, on the math that Councilmember Chavez talked about. We're getting to a desperation point. So the real question is, what can we do to make it better? What can we do to stem the tide? And I'm looking across the nation, all these debates are going. I don't think anybody has the answer. I don't believe having a heavy hand in the club is going to solve the problem. I think it's going to exacerbate the problem. And what Paul said, we come across on a 7-0 vote, that means a lot to me. We already have the authority through code enforcement to do the enforcement. You don't even have to put the second phase in. You don't have to put 50. I think we all agreed on egregious violations, which we can all do that. And in fact, our city attorney said a couple of days ago, if you said 50 or more, you're going to get a pair of binoculars out there and start counting people before you go in. It's impossible to do. We need to send a message of unity. And I think the more we can persuade people, it ultimately is going to come down to voluntary compliance. And I think that a lot of businesses have been shattered, their lives been changed without the justification that's necessary. We don't want to exacerbate that. If Member Chavez, if you could just leave that second part out, have a 7-0 vote, because we already have the authority already to do it. And I agree that in egregious conditions, it should be used. And you mentioned a 50 or more, that's a situation. But the message we send out today will make a huge difference to our community in the start of sending a message. Persuade people, be responsible for what you're doing. You're affecting everybody. And that's the best way, in my opinion, we can deal with this pandemic. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. So
I call for the question.
Council Vice President, allow me. I know it's your last meeting and you're tired, so are the rest of us.
Well, I'm not tired. We've beat this to death, this vote, and then we'll decide.
There is a motion to separate the two items, to separate item 1 and 2. So that's a motion to amend. Is the maker of the motion agreeable to separate both items?
Yes.
All right, as a second, I'm agreeable to separate both items. So we'll take consider a motion to approve item 1. Is there a motion to approve item 1?
So moved.
Is there a
If
second?
that's okay with Luis though, because it's his item.
It's fine. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Have Luis go for it first.
Hold on. There's a motion by Member Carbasi, second by Council Vice President Caprio. Roll call, please.
Wait, this is to approve just one?
Yes, item 1.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio,
Yes.
President Arias.
Yes. All right. Is there a motion to approve item 2?
Motion.
Second.
Second. Motion by Chavez, second by Esparza. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
No.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza,
Aye.
Councilmember Carbasi,
No.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Council Vice President Capriolio,
No.
President Arias.
Yes.
It's 4-3.
Okay, council, that is the final item for public discussion. We will now take a 10-minute break and go into closed session for council. We can go into closed session immediately. We only have one item in closed session, and that is a conference with real property negotiator on APN number 446-0210. So I'll see you in closed session in a couple minutes.
A different link, President Arias?
It's the same link in your Outlook for the morning.
And no announcement afterwards.
And we don't anticipate announcements after the closed session.
Okay.